We're both in the minority on something here.
Yay!
So Carson, I would assume you saw, I believe it was, Monday? It was like a random Monday, unexpectedly, that they just dropped the Mandalorian and Grogu trailer on YouTube, unprompted. Like, I don't know if I missed an announcement, like, oh, expect the trailer tomorrow. But I just literally loaded up YouTube on my TV while I was working to play some stuff in the background. All of a sudden, first thing that pops up, Mandalorian and Grogu trailer. I'm like, huh? And I texted you like, bro, the trailer dropped. So
Yeah,
like,
I was at work and I told my boss, I looked at my boss and went, hey, I need to take a step out. And he was actively watching the trailer as I was stepping out to go watch the trailer. So I'm like, all right, fair enough. All right, that's good.
I mean, this is the first Star Wars movie in what, 6-7 years, right? Am I right in that? Because we haven't gotten
2019.
so
Yeah.
6 years, yeah. Because we haven't
Yeah.
gotten a Star Wars movie since the prequels ended, which is insane to think about. For granted, we've gotten obviously the TV shows, but we haven't gotten a theatrical movie in 6 years from Star Wars.
No, sorry. No, we haven't had a Star Wars release since 2015. It ended with The Force Awakens. I don't know what you're talking about. I think that franchise ended in 2015, right? Can we all agree with that?
We're gonna have an
Right?
episode about that one day if we ever have time, because
I
ooh,
don't
that would
look,
be fun.
but before we like talk about Mandalorian and Grogu, just because and we will have another episode about this. I'm actually one of the people who I don't completely hate the sequels. I actually every now and again will go back and rewatch them just because I do find some enjoyment in them. I don't think they're like the worst thing ever. Do I think that it's probably of all the franchises that have fallen off, do I think Star Wars, the sequel trilogy, might be on the bottom tier? Like it might have been the worst thing to fall off. That might be a possibility, but there is the Hobbit franchise that also fell off harder. So I look,
Fair
I
enough.
don't I don't hate the sequels, but I don't necessarily think they're fantastic either. You know,
I think it's a
it
fair stance to take. Like, I really do. Like, I'm someone who I call myself a sequel defender, mainly because those movies hold a very special place in my heart. I mean, Carson knows
sure.
the story, but before the sequel trilogy released, me, my grandmother, who's a huge Star Wars fan, my dad, and my sister, who are the Star Wars fans in my family, we watched all 6 Star Wars movies in order nonstop. And then we immediately went the next day and watched The Force Awakens together. And then we watched every single one of the sequel movies together. Rey is actually my grandmother's, I would say it is her. She says it's her favorite character. I still think she doesn't admit that Yoda is her favorite. She has a Yoda, life-size Yoda statue in her house. Like, this is how Star Wars fan my grandma is. My grandma has a Yoda, life-size Yoda. I think Carson's seen it before. A
No, I've
life-size
seen it.
Yoda
No, I've seen it. Yeah,
in
no, I've
her
seen it.
house. So, like, my grandma's a huge Star Wars fan. So, those movies will always hold a special place in my heart because of that. So, I'm always going to be looking at them through like rose tinted glasses. But I can admit, like, they're not perfect movies. They're not.
Oh no, not at all. And again, sometimes it's harder to watch, especially when you rewatch the entire trilogy and you go Force Awakens, pretty much a New Hope, but it's pretty good. I enjoy it. Honestly, the way they write Han Solo's character out, I'm like, that's actually really good. I'm kind of okay with that. Pretty good. Let's see what the second one does. Oh, we've got flying Superman Leia, and we've got the Canto Bight sequence and Rose. How could it get worse than that? Enter the Rise of Skywalker. Or as most people I feel like after watching the movie would call the fall of Skywalker. it is appalling to see the fall. It is, but I still don't hate it as much as others. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I really did enjoy watching them in theaters. They were like the first Star Wars films I did watch in theaters.
Mm-hmm.
I think excluding Empire, because that came back at one point in like 2015 and I rewatched it.
The first new Star Wars, like
the first new
time release.
And so like, and if that's the case, then yeah, maybe I have a slight bias and then maybe that's why I can't fully 100% say I do hate this, because I do have an attachment to it. So that being said, I do acknowledge that they're awful, but there's a part of me where it's like, I gotta watch it. Maybe that's my like, maybe those are my guilty pleasure movies. You know what those are? Maybe that's what that is.
Yeah.
Maybe the sequel trilogy is like my guilty pleasure movies. I don't know why. But Mandalorian and Grogu. the culmination movie of 3 seasons, I guess technically 4 or 3.5 if you include Book of Boba Fett, because that was also Mando season. that was also Mando season 2.5.
Yeah.
The culmination of this whole universe that's been set up for what? It was 2019 or 2020 that they officially.
When it first came out, no, this came out. We watched episodes together at your house before I left for college. This was like, what would it have been? Like 2018? I'm gonna look this up while you talk.
No, it's not 20. It's not 2018. There's no way. It was after Endgame. I know it had to have been after Endgame. I don't think it was
Okay,
prior.
you're right. You're right. November, the first day that it released, November 12th, 2019.
2019. Okay. I was about to say, because I do remember the first episode we watched was at your house. It was a big group of
Yes.
people because it was also the same day release for Disney Plus. That was like the
Mhm.
big thing. It's like, oh, we have this, and then let's watch Mandalorian as a group, and everybody was like awing over it. So it's a big culmination of the past 6 years now.
Yeah.
We've had so many shows since then. Some we wish to forget, but you know, uh, we've had a lot of properties and things built over time. This is the big culmination, at least for Mandalorian and Grogu specifically. Obviously, I don't know what's going to happen with Ahsoka. I don't know what's going to happen with the Star Wars Rebels at some point, if anything. The trailer didn't exactly sell me on anything, but I also don't think he was trying to. I think all the trailer was trying to do was remind you, hey, there's a movie coming out about Mandalorian and Grogu. Here's some cool action shots. Here's the Mandalorian and Grogu.
Yeah.
That's it. And honestly, that's fine with me. I'm okay with that. For the average viewer who has never seen anything Mandalorian, might be a little rough because they don't know who the character is. Maybe they don't care about who the character is. Maybe there's just nothing in it for them at all. And so they're going to see this trailer and go, well, what's the point? For a Star Wars fan, this is what I was talking about a few weeks ago when I brought up my comparison of like the Alien trailer, how like the
Mhm.
letters will pop into frame and it's just the word alien and it's a big shot of space. This trailer is kind of like that to a certain extent, and I really appreciate that. I really enjoy that because it gives me more time to just sit here and go, I wonder what this movie could be about, and maybe I get to go in blind when the film actually does come out.
I think unfortunately, I really agree with you on that. I think that's a fantastic take. I will say though, unfortunately, knowing Disney specifically, we're not gonna go in blind. They're gonna give you the
Oh
whole thing
sure,
of trailers. Disney is notorious
sure,
for having that problem. But I think this trailer served two purposes. I think you're completely right that this trailer served to just be like, hey, reminder, there is a Star Wars movie coming out next year. Please watch it. This
yeah,
movie also served the purpose of showing you that they have an increased budget. Like, I don't know if you clocked it immediately, but like the second the trailer started, I was like, this feels different. This doesn't
oh no, I
feel
did.
like the TV show. This
Oh no, I did.
feels like a movie. Like the CGI was much better. The like set pieces were very clearly bigger. Not that Mandalorian doesn't get big, but like this specifically just it felt like a movie. And I think that's
Yeah,
what they
it's
wanted to sell to people.
well, and to be fair, I also say this, and I people talk about this all the time between like TV shows and big budget movies. Most of the time, TV shows are going to be, especially as they become more popular and they're more fantasy or sci-fi or whatever, they're going to be a lot more expensive to produce than a movie is. That being said, I'm pretty sure the Mando and Grogu movie had the budget of the television show, but it was for like a 2-hour movie or however long it's going to be. A significantly less amount of time than the 8 hours or 9 hours that it would have been to produce a entire season of television. So they're able to give more into their budget. They're able to do more than this. Now, granted, if you ask me, I think Disney should just be able to give the money anyway because it's Disney. And you're going to hear me say that again later when we talk about another property that we're talking about today. Uh, but it doesn't look bad, which was my biggest fear because most things produced by Disney now can look bad. I will also say this: I do feel it's just weird. I felt the style of Jon Favreau whenever the trailer did drop, and I was seeing like various different things. I like felt Jon Favreau's direction. It was weird, or at least I felt his presence and like him pulling the strings behind like everything. I'm like, that's very Jon Favreau, and I can see why. Like, I can see how it was set
Yeah.
up, how it was shot by him. Jon Favreau is the director, right? Like, I'm not
I
going
believe
crazy.
so. I believe so.
I thought he was ending it because he
We're gonna
started
Google
it, but
this
I
while you continue to talk.
Google it because then I'm just gonna look like the biggest idiot if I saw it and say, "Oh, I can feel Jon Favreau in it." Like, I can see the similarities to this film and this
It
show
is
and
in
this
fact
shot.
Jon Favreau.
Okay,
You are correct.
that's what I thought.
You are
That's what I
you are
thought.
a smart Star Wars fan. You know your shit. You can sense the Jon Favreau in the Force.
I can sense the John. I can sense Jon Favreau in the Force. Um, but the trailer, like, and again, I don't hate it. I actually like what the trailer did. It gave me enough to be like, here's your title characters. Here's a few cool action shots to get you in your seats. I wish they could just leave it at that. Unfortunately, they had to release a poster the same day, and who is on that poster? None other than Zeb from Star Wars Rebels, and that pissed me off royally.
You didn't see Zeb was in the trailer.
Oh,
Zeb
he
was
was.
in the trailer. He was
Oh
in
well, that
all
pisses me.
this fight.
That still pisses me off.
They also announced Zeb being a part of this a while ago because if you remember, we've already seen Zeb in live action.
No, no,
Zeb was in
Well, Zeb's in the
the
universe.
Yeah, no, but Zeb was live action in I believe it was the Ahsoka show. So we already knew that he was going like they announced that Zeb was going to be in live action in this movie like years ago. So
No,
I already kind
they
of
announced it. They announced it years ago. I didn't think he was going to be a part of this. That still should have been something they should have saved. Like, hey, we brought him into live action a while ago, but we never officially said, "Oh yeah, he's going to be a part of this movie." Now that's one of those things they should have just put a pin in it. It's like the chair reveal for
yeah.
Marvel.
We're
Not on
gonna
the.
bitch about that chair reveal for years. And you're
Well, it's
right.
funny is, do you remember? Like, it's just funny. Now we're kind of talking about the chairs things, but do you remember how excited we were when they were announcing these names? Like, oh my god, that's incredible! Oh my gosh! And then after it was over, we went, "What did you do? You
Yeah,
told us
exactly.
everything." And it's like,
Exactly.
it's just funny. Yeah, we're gonna complain about that chair reveal for a while. Even though, yes, I did sit there for the entire 8 hours and do like schoolwork and, and just watch the entire live stream. Every 12 minutes, them announce a new name. Great. Oh my god. Um, look, I love me some Pedro Pascal. It's once again clear that it's not him in the suit; it's somebody else, and he's saying the lines.
Yeah.
I don't know. Let's see where it goes. I know they're going to reveal more stuff as it goes on, and that concerns me because I like where they just kind of have it right now. And it's just like a nice package product of, hey, just go watch this. You don't really know anything about it, but just go watch it. So we'll see.
Yeah, and I'm excited because I do really like the Mandalorian TV series. I was a pretty big fan of that. Again, we watched a lot of those episodes together. I still have
Yeah.
a memory like tattooed into my brain of you, me, and a few other of our mutual friends sitting down and watching the episode where Luke Skywalker comes back, and all
Yeah.
of us losing our minds. Like we went ballistic
Oh, yeah.
in the house. Like it was such a hype day because they teased it. So we all like we didn't watch every episode together, but they teased it and we're like, what's gonna be the reveal? So we were like, we all gotta watch this together. We all gotta turn up and find out who this is. So we all showed up and we were not disappointed whatsoever.
Not disappointed, but we did get a CGI Luke Skywalker, and I was like, please fix that, Disney. And then like a week later, they went back into it and they fixed it. I'm like, oh, thank God. Thank you, Disney.
It was definitely an interesting look for Luke. But yeah,
It was so distracting.
all that being said, I do really like the Mandalorian stuff, especially season 2.5.
Season 2.5. Oh my god. The
But I
Mandalorian
think,
featuring Boba Fett.
yeah, I think it'll be with Jon Favreau at the helm. I have hope. I do. I really do have hope because it's Jon Favreau. If it was someone else, I admittedly don't know if I would have as much hope as I do, just because Jon Favreau has given us basically the best Star Wars we've ever gotten for like for the most
There's
part.
only one person who's
Some
done
of
it better. There's only one person who's done it better, and that's Dave Filoni. Dave
yeah,
Filoni.
well, Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni are. You're right. You're so right. They're both like, yeah.
Yeah. Oh boy, I'm looking
I
at my
will.
notes for today, and I'm like sitting here going, "Oh my god, what am I about to do? What Pandora's box am I about to open?"
I'm not excited for this, but I will say before we move on, we're not going to talk about this, but I'm going to bring it up. Star Wars released season 2 of Lego Star Wars Rebuild the Galaxy. It's their
Oh,
what if
sure.
story, but done in Lego. I
Sure.
actually
Right.
reviewed it on the short form content. The only reason I bring it up, and I was going to bring it up earlier, but I didn't get the opportunity to. I don't know who wrote that show, but they deserve a raise, but they also need to go into witness protection because the amount of jabs that they take at Star Wars for not being good, especially the sequel trilogy. They have a whole joke in there where, you know, the like the Sarlacc pit. They're about to dump people into the Sarlacc pit. Turns out it's not the Sarlacc pit, it's the Snoke pit. They make a comment of, "Oh, we found all these clones of Snoke just like laying around. What are we gonna do?" So we threw him in this hole, and he was useless anyway. Like, we didn't need him. Like, why was he even there to begin with? And I lost my mind. Like, they went hog wild. Like, I don't know. Clearly, the person who wrote this was salty about the sequel trilogy, but it was so funny watching Disney make fun of themselves. Like, all the
It's clear
hate
that
rolled into
somebody
a non-existent grave.
it's clear that somebody before they wrote it were like, "Hey, I saw the new Deadpool movie. It made fun of Disney. I want to do that." And he just
Yeah,
wrote the whole thing.
exactly. Exactly. So if you have time, it's 4 short episodes. I highly recommend it for anyone. I've already done my reviews on the short form. I wasn't even planning on reviewing it. I just watched it and had so much fun with it.
It's
Like,
stupid fun, sure.
oh yeah, it's stupid fun. So since we're talking about Star Wars, I just thought I'd throw that in there. But with that being said, we have a lot of things to review today. So what's up, Nimrods? It's your boys back with another episode of the Nerdy Nimrods podcast. The only podcast where your 2 favorite Nimrods talk all things nerdy. I'm your host for today's episode, Brandon, aka Parrotfish, here with my forever co-host
Carson, aka Juggernaut.
And on today's episode, we will not be reviewing Peacemaker, actually. That will be next week where we review 2 episodes. This week, we will be talking about Marvel Zombies, the 4-episode miniseries that they did, and One Battle After Another, the new Leonardo DiCaprio movie. But before we get into that, Carson, I'm not even going to ask you how you're doing. I know how you're doing, and it's not great.
let's just move it along. Move it along. Skip past that section. Let's not even touch over it. We're gonna be here for 5 hours.
Yeah, we've both had an interesting week. For the both of us, we both had some fun, and we also both had some not so fun. So we're just gonna skip past the "How are you doing" section.
I guess I can talk about what I did on Friday night, which is pretty fun.
Okay, go ahead, give it to us.
I attended a certain event that brought me a lot of joy. I went to Friday Night SmackDown here in Orlando, and my God, what a fun live event! I had no idea what to expect going into it, and it's really funny when they do the commercial breaks live. for the audience. It's really funny. No, if you're a big wrestling fan or you're a big wrestling nut, I cannot recommend going at least once. There is so much to love about it. You get to meet, at least at the show I went to, I got all the superstars that I wanted. They had a few surprises, a few returns that I wasn't expecting. And then, you know, if you buy a ticket to the live event, they'll have a few extra matches with some big superstars that, you know, maybe aren't filmed for television, but you'll get them as people who bought the ticket just so that, you know, you can get your money's worth. But I cannot explain how quickly I pulled out my phone whenever they announced halfway through the night, we're coming back December 23rd. We just signed the contract. Tickets are on sale now. Ripped out my phone and I started gunning for tickets. I had a great time. I have some videos. I'll post a video about it later. If you want to know how I did this weekend, it's just going to be all the clips of people yelling and shouting. And oh my God, it was a lot of fun. It was great.
Yeah, was that your first ever WWE event?
First in-person WWE event. So it was really cool.
Wow. No, that is cool. That is
never
cool.
forget your first time.
Anyways, I went to the Alex Warren concert this weekend. That was a lot of fun. The circumstances surrounding the trip to the Alex Warren concert, that's where my not fun came in. Carson knows the story. He's gonna laugh at me. I'm still very upset about it. It was a shit show. Let's just call it that. But I still got to see Alex Warren. So there we go. You know, good enough.
Yeah,
But
really.
moving into our normal sections, before we get into that, big spoiler warning. I have been getting really good about putting timestamps and things before the episode's release. So if you haven't seen either Marvel Zombies, which we will start off with, or One Battle After Another, you can skip around. We don't give non-spoiler reviews. Might sound like we're talking about non-spoiler stuff, but me and Carson learned really fast that we'll just say things without thinking. We'll be like, oh, we'll just give our non-spoiler over cursor reviews, and then we'll just say the biggest thing that happens in the movie. So we're just open and front about it. Big spoilers, skip around, go and watch either Marvel Zombies or One Battle After Another, or both, and then come back and watch. But with that being said, I don't I don't want to kick it to Carson first because I don't know if I want
No,
his
would you
thoughts.
like to
But
start? No,
no, no, no,
I'll
no,
forfeit my turn. I will let you
no, no, no,
start first if you'd
no, no.
like.
I actually I do want to hear you first because I know what my thoughts are, and with how much you've built up your thoughts over the past like
Mm,
2 days, without like obviously I know nothing about your actual feelings or thoughts on this, but the
sure.
way you've built it up has got me, let's call it intrigued, if not worried. So I do want to hear your thoughts first. Let's go ahead and kick it off with you. What did you think of the 4 episode miniseries of Marvel Zombies?
I'm not going to go in depth yet. I'm not going to pull up my notes. I'm just going to start off by saying this. I was very vocal about Eyes of Wakanda. I didn't really like it all that much. I didn't think it was really worth my time. It's not something that I was really looking forward to. And I even said after that, I was not looking forward to Marvel Zombies. When the scene last week leaked, and it was Blade as Moon Knight, Moonblade, whatever you want to call him.
Yeah.
When that scene leaked and it was the visuals and the music, the score, and the violence, sold me. I thought
Mhm.
this is actually going to be really, really fun. They're going to do a good job of this. I have all the faith in the world that this is actually going to be really, really fun. And I got that. It is fun. The show that I watched suffers from being way too short. And I'm more pissed about that because I know that What If, which initially was like a 12 episode show in like seasons 1 and season 2, it was a longer show. We could have given the same treatment for Marvel Zombies. I'm not saying it had to be 12 episodes, but it could have been longer. There was a certain point when I was watching these episodes, I go, that could have been its own episode, and we could have built that more. We could have fleshed that out better. That could have been its own episode, and we could have fleshed that out better. That could have been its own episode, and we could have fleshed that out better. Too many times, I'm looking at this from the outsider perspective. If you're somebody who doesn't know the Marvel characters, or maybe you're somebody who is returning to Marvel just because you know the Marvel Zombie comics, you may not know Marvel where it's at right now. You may not know some of the characters. So that being said, there was a lot of things that were built up, and I use quotations because it really wasn't built up. And then they try to have this big payoff moment, and you feel nothing. It falls flat. The only thing you have as a Marvel fan is the previous knowledge of, oh man, that's Shang-Chi. I liked him from the Shang-Chi movie. He's really good there. And he, is fine in the show. But I feel nothing emotionally when his father's taken out by the horde of zombies. I feel nothing. There might be a slight thing of like, oh, that's kind of sad, but I don't actually feel sad. I'm just saying, oh, that's sad, you know. Um, and all of it ropes back to the ideology in my mind, at least, which is you needed to make this show longer. I know you have the budget for it. I know you have the cast for it. I know you have the time for it. Make the show longer. This was not like an Eyes of Wakanda show where you could have just simply made it 4 episodes and each is its own individual story. This is technically a connective story, even though like each episode starts off in a completely different location and it does something, different with different people. I wanted to feel something. I wanted to look at this show and go, man, when Kate Bishop and Riri Williams die, or at least Riri Williams, I guess technically didn't die. Kate Bishop clearly did though. Holy crap. Melted down immediately at the ray beam. Holy crap. I wanted to feel something, but I couldn't because we spent 9 minutes with them And in that 9 minutes, it was looking for the next MacGuffin, moving from one place to another. We didn't really have any development between those characters beyond the development we've gotten in previous shows, which works in the context of live action because it is one continuous story. Here, it's again another what if style, like, oh, this isn't actually our reality, whatever. And then there's other things like, and it is, unfortunately, it does mostly come with Kamala Khan. I've seen for the most part. Every now and again, it's with Shang-Chi. Some of the voice dialogue was off. Like they had an idea on where they wanted to take it, but then they just didn't like match it well with the scene. Like there's a scene whenever Riri tells a joke, Kamala laughs and he goes, "Oh, not bad, Riri." That line sounded like it was a completely different thing. Like maybe Kate Bishop was supposed to say it and then she's supposed to respond with, "Oh, not bad, Riri." It just doesn't match. And it's a completely different tone. And it took me out of that moment because it just felt off. I'm not going to give more specific moments. I'm just trying to give it. Some of the writing is also like atrociously bad. It can be at times. When it's good, it is good. But again, and it's mostly because it's shorter. It's really, it comes down to the fact that the show is just way too short. And so the writing comes off as rushed, sloppy, bad, even though I don't actually think it is. I think there is a good idea here. It just comes off that way. And I'll go more in depth about that, but it mostly comes with like the character of Red Guardian or Alexei. There's like one specific scene I'm thinking of right now where I'm like, that's great. But you had this here and doing this. The very last thing, I'm so sorry. I know. The very last thing I will say that is negative is sometimes the tone can be very off. And the only reason I'm saying that, and I'm not trying to compare it, but it's a rated MA show. It's based off a very dark comic book series. I wish that we would have gotten rid with some, not, it doesn't have to be all, because you can have campiness like it, and you can have it in the show. I wish there were some corny one-liners and jokes that we could have just gotten rid of. Which also, maybe that would have been done away if the show was longer, maybe most of those would have been done away. But the show's premise is that the world is at its end. There are very, very few people left. It should be a lot more grim and less lighthearted. I'll talk more about that in a minute. We can go into that conversation. I'm going to pull references from something like The Walking Dead. And I can, because again, it's an MA show. As far as I'm concerned, they are equals at this point. They have entered the same playing field, so I can use the same comparison. I had a fun time. Visually amazing. Like, this is actually one of the most visually creative stories I've seen in a long, long time from Marvel. And as a story and a concept, I'm not mad at it. I actually like it, even though it pretty much is like a big MacGuffin chase to, oh, we got to get to a spaceship. Oh, we got to get this drive to this drive. Even though it is that, I did enjoy what it was, and I thought it was fun. And definitely, I thought it was better than Eyes of Wakanda. I'm done. Be kind. Please. Go ahead.
It's funny. I don't know what you think my thoughts are gonna be on the show, but you seem to be very nervous that I'm gonna rip into you. Granted, I've ripped into you in the past, so
Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely.
not an off basis.
It's not an off basis thing at all.
I don't know what you're talking about. No, so I'm gonna start this off by saying I agree with you a lot more than I think you think I'm going to.
Okay.
So the only emotional beat that for me, and it's funny that you brought up the Red Guardian stuff as being something you didn't like. That's actually the only emotional beat that actually like worked for me. Was specifically the Red Guardian reacting to Yelena's death. I do feel like we kind of breezed over the fact that his wife died really fast. It was like, oh, his wife died. Oh, and we're gone. And I'm like, huh, okay. He just okay, interesting. And then Yelena dies, and he feels something, and I felt something for that. And in terms of the campiness, I'll actually start out with that. I agree with you. One thing that actually shocked me is they were MA, and now granted, it was really brutal. Like you said, like Kate Bishop got incinerated. You're seeing people get literally torn in half, seeing intestines on the floor. Like they went really hard with the MA in the violence. the places where they didn't go hard in the MA did actually take me out of it a little bit. One of the biggest instances, and this is going to sound probably weird to say, why the fuck weren't they cursing? They said bitch like 1 or 2 times. Dude, I curse like a sailor on a normal day. And I know that might just be me. You're literally getting chased by zombies and watching people get ripped in half. And it sounds like you're saying, oh, golly gee, oh no, Batman. Wait, what do you mean? The dude just got ripped in half. Like, yes, they panic, but to be honest, I didn't feel the panic as much as I wanted to. And here's the thing: you mentioned the voice cast. I looked it up while you were talking. Riri, Kamala, and Kate and Shang-Chi, they were all voiced by the same people who do live
Yeah.
action.
Yeah.
And I Red Guardian was, and very clearly Yelena was, but not all the characters were voiced by the original actors. Like, for instance, Blade. Blade was not voiced by any version of Blade we've ever gotten. It's just some dude who came in to voice him.
It's not Mahershala Ali?
Nope, it is not Mahershala Ali. I googled it. It is, let me pull it up. It is Todd Williams.
Oh, it sounded like Mahershala Ali.
Todd Williams gives a good performance, but it does, I don't want to say hinder the experience, but I guess the reason why they do that is because on-camera actors aren't always the best voice actors. I think that's just like it's a reality. It has been seen many times before. I also agree with you a lot on the sense that I hated the way that this ended. I really do. I think that this should have been, you brought up What If as an example, and this is obviously this isn't where it comes from, but this episode spins off of the same universe that What If episode was in. And What If was 12 episodes. This was 4, not 6, not 8, 4. And they were shorter episodes. They were like 25-ish minutes, which I guess short relative, but they're about the same as an animated length. So when this ended, I don't want to say it felt abrupt, but I've talked about this before. I can't remember when, I brought it up for Eyes of Wakanda and why I didn't like the way that Eyes of Wakanda ended, because it felt like it went too big. Why did we need another giant space laser? Infinity Hulk is really cool. He is, but like, I don't know. For the grounded reality of the brutal nature of the zombies, yes, we're in the Marvel Universe. Yes, there's big bombastic things going on. I actually really liked the whole, I just hit my microphone. I really liked the Thanos thing, but I felt like the Infinity gas or whatever was such an unnecessary plot point. It added no tension. You took active time away from the things that I cared about to focus on this infinity gas that then turns into an Infinity Hulk that's what destroys Wanda. And I guess it makes some sense, because how else are you supposed to destroy Wanda, canonically one of the strongest Marvel characters in history? But at the same time, just don't make Wanda your main villain. Like that, it's a simple fix. And so I agree with you on all of those things, actually. So I don't know if you're surprised, but I do agree with you on a lot of that. That being said, I think when the show hits, like when you have the moments of brutal battles and dark and gritty fights, that stuff is like a 10 out of 10 for me. I know we don't rank things on this, but like the reason why I'm so high on those moments is because they genuinely impressed me with how like actually brutal they went. Like, yes, Disney made Wolverine, like Deadpool and Wolverine, but like at the same time, that was very clearly just Ryan Reynolds making sure that Deadpool stayed true. So this was like, in my opinion, Disney's first Marvel rated M property.
Yes.
It really was. So other than the fact that, like, yes, the campiness did kind of take me out of it a few times, because I'm sitting there like, you just watched your friends die. Drop an F-bomb. Like, feel in this world. Like, feel like a real human being who isn't oh, golly gee, I'm a Marvel superhero. So those moments, I do agree. Like when I'm sitting there, I'm like, man, that just felt a little too Marvel for the
Sure.
other half of the show when you're tearing dudes in half. You have that scene, which I wish they didn't leak in advance, of Blade chopping a dude to smithereens. Like, those moments were dope as hell. I love them playing with the Marvel universe as well and giving us things like the Blade Moon Knight. You have the cow
Right.
person from the Comertage, which is an actual comic book character. You
Right.
have those interesting tidbits that really bring me in. I actually really liked the Nova Corps element of it and them
Yes.
quarantining them. I felt like that actually really worked and added to the dread. There was a lot of
Again,
dread,
yeah.
and I feel like they do a really good job with the dread when they're in those dark moments, but each episode is split 50-50. They start in a different area to introduce you to the new cast of characters that you know are going to die, and then you switch over to when they die. That is
Sure.
rinse and repeat formula. And I feel like that could be done really well if you let everything breathe a little bit more. If you
Sure.
didn't kind of boom, 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 4 episodes out. Give us
Right.
give us 6 episodes. Give us 8 episodes. Doesn't need to be a 12, but you gave What If, what, 3 seasons of 12 episodes? And you give Marvel Zombies 4? Like, I
Right.
hope they make
I
another season because, again, I feel like that ending was such a blue balls ass ending.
Here's the thing.
But
I'm not mad at the ending. I'm mad with how they got to the ending. And the reason I say
yeah,
that is because
that's
if they
fair.
had more time to feel earned, if they had more episodes, and then they didn't have to reveal that they were making a season two, but it leaves on a cliffhanger. We know they're going to get season two, but at least it feels justified to
Do we?
get there. I believe they're
Is
making
it
a season two. I
confirmed?
don't. I don't. I don't
Okay,
think they've officially
okay.
confirmed it, but it's pretty. They're making a season two. It's
Well,
pretty
what I
evident.
will say is the main reason I'm mad about the ending is because I'm not sure if we're getting a season 2 or not. So
We
if
will.
that's the way that they choose to end the story without a season 2, I'm pissed. If we're gonna get a season 2, okay, I can look past it a little bit. Again, I still don't love the Infinity Hulk stuff. I was hyped to see Infinity Hulk, yes, and that final battle was dope as shit. But at the same time, giant big laser space beam with a bunch of nameless, faceless zombies coming and ripping people to shreds. I felt like I wanted a little bit more out of it, but that's kind of just me.
Has not officially been confirmed, but they are like everybody is dropping like major hints that it's going to happen. Like everybody
Okay,
who's like an
then
executive is like dropped it.
then I'm a little bit more forgiving, I guess, on the ending. But I'll end. I went probably longer than you did on your initial thoughts, so I'll go ahead and end my initial thoughts here, and we can start the back and forth. Where do you want to start? Because I think I
I'm
probably
gonna
stopped you there a little bit by not sucking the dick of Marvel Zombies as hard as you probably thought I was going to. Like,
no, but honestly,
I'm
I
gonna
took
say
in-depth
this, like,
notes. We can just hit those points as I go around because I
okay,
have them for like each episode. We can just hit those points if you want to chime in with like, okay, hey, yeah, let's talk about that more in depth, or I actually want to add this into the conversation while we're speaking about that moment. Like, go ahead. But like, I have just like a whole list of just like that's stuff that can be changed, and some stuff that on there is positive where it's like I actually like that.
yeah. Well, before we get into that, I do want to say I still really do enjoy this. Like, this is
Sure. Yeah,
way
I didn't
higher.
completely hate it.
This is still way higher. Like, I'd put this above an Eyes of Wakanda.
Yes.
I'd put this above What If. Now, granted, I'm lower on What If than I feel like some people are, especially towards the later
S-
seasons.
Certain episodes of What If I put it above.
Okay, I guess
Certain
that's
episodes.
fair. I guess that's fair.
I would put it above seasons 3 and maybe seasons 2 and 1. I think seasons 2 and 1 are very much outstanding. I think they're very, very well done. Um, so I actually don't know if I would put it above them. But as far as like Marvel animation, it's almost on par with What If at least, which isn't saying much because What If isn't like the best thing since sliced bread. But it's
I mean,
it's close to the level.
for me personally, like it is in the higher echelons. Again, I still haven't seen X-Men 97, but I will one day.
No,
So
that's ungodly good. Like
yeah,
X Men 90. I'm telling you, X Men 97 is ungodly good.
no, I know. But I really, really had a fun time with this. And it's funny because in the moment when I was watching it, I was way higher on the show. I probably had the opinions that you thought I was going to have. I watched this 2 days ago, I think.
Sure.
And it was after kind of taking a step back and allowing myself to dissect what I watched, that's when I kind of started to thinking about a lot of the same stuff that you brought up. Like, I will admit, I didn't notice it as much in the moment because I was kind of distracted by all the fun shit, like watching Spider-Man rip people's heads off and watching Blade cut people in half and watching Thor
Sure.
pop off. Like, that stuff was really fun. But if I had to go back and actually like look at it beyond just the, oh, that was really cool, I also have to accept that there were moments that were like, okay, we could have done better there. We were a little rushed there. Why was the campiness necessary there? Like, you can say, oh, it's Marvel, but like,
Well, like,
Marvel
well,
doesn't
what?
always need to be Marvel.
Why don't we talk about some of these moments right now?
Okay.
Uh, One of my first comments. Oh, this is stupid. We're not going to comment on this one. I just wrote episode. I think this was like maybe 2 minutes into it. Episode already needs to be longer. Too much exposition without with telling instead of showing. When Marvel has a budget to run its own content, it really should be showing it through the animated scenes. And I think that was me just going like, "Come on, guys!" You, like, and I think I was referring to that one specifically. It was when they're on the ship and they're flying and Kamala says like the storm looks beautiful and whatnot. She starts talking about like her home and like I this and that. I miss this. I like that.
The road trip scene.
It's fine. Yeah. It's fine. The issue is we never saw this version of Kamala's life prior to the outbreak. We never got to see any of that. The only thing we get to see when it comes to the outbreak is when Shang-Chi goes through the outbreak. That's it. That's all we get. And even then, we don't get to see him in his normal life prior. We just see the outbreak. To really get the impact of certain things, you want to see like what life was like before to then compare what life's like after. And I guess the comparison you could say is, oh, we saw her in the Miss Marvel show and in the Marvels and that. I guess fine, sure, whatever. But we've already established at this point that this is not that universe. Anything could be different. Any numerous possibility could be different. You really don't know.
Yeah. Well, and I'll just add to that. This show needs you to be a Marvel fan.
Yes,
Unfortunately. Okay,
yes,
specifically, let me correct myself. It needs you to be a Marvel fan if you expect to feel anything. Because you're right. They don't really do a good job of making, other than, in my opinion, the Red Guardian stuff, of making you feel for anyone but Kamala and Red Guardian, two people that we spend a lot of time with. So it's kind of like a when they die, you're like, oh, that's sad, but I'm not really gonna like cry over spilled milk in this situation because if you don't know about the previous Marvel stuff, you're not gonna have any connection to these characters all that much. Like, I don't know if that's just me. Like, I guess you can make the argument of like, oh, well, you see her with Kate Bishop and why am I blank? Riri in the beginning, and
yeah,
they're friends and stuff like that. That's like what 5 minutes of runtime, maybe 10 minutes of runtime. Like
yeah. It's really small.
if
We
you
we
would
see
have
we
given
see
us
no build.
more, yeah, if you give us a little bit more build and it doesn't, if I can notice the rush, then it's rushed. There are some things that
It's
we'll talk about later that applies to in a different
right.
context, but
It's funny, and this is going to be a horrible comparison, but I'm pulling this one because at least you know this show and you've seen this show. I can't pull from The Walking Dead and make all these comparisons, even though I guess I technically could. The Last of Us, season 1, episode
I
1,
was I was trying to
primarily
remember until you brought up The Last of Us.
is primarily a good example for this. That whole first episode, granted, it's an hour and 30 minutes long. It's a long episode, but we get to see the build from where Joel starts, as a father just trying to do his best. He works late, this, that. We follow from his daughter's perspective. We follow from Sarah, and we get to see what life is like normally before all the chaos starts happening. We get hints towards it while normal life is happening, but we really don't we get to understand what life was like prior. Therefore, it also sets the tone for the rest of the show, and it also like really shows us like, oh God, this is really bad. Um, and that's why I also wrote here. Show needs to be more grim and less marvelly. It can have jokes, but not Marvel corny jokes. And I
Mm.
explained that I'm gonna pull an example from The Walking Dead now. There's a scene when Daryl and Rick. I know you don't know who those characters are. They're the main characters, basically. That's all you need to know when Daryl and Rick are chasing this guy named Jesus who is stealing their truck with food that they literally just hijacked. And it's like the second time they've been duped out of this truck. And Rick's like, look, man, they're having just an honest conversation about letting people into their society, letting people into the walls of the building that they built. And Daryl just goes, what, you want to let people in like this guy? And Rick just goes, no, fuck this guy. Like, that's a type of joke that hits hard because it's funny and because it just works so well in the moment, but you're still having the tone be the same. It doesn't work when you add the Marvel corniness into a grim story. Oh my god, I forgot I wrote this. Riri took me out of the moment before the action sequence started whenever they're about to fight the Horde. So like they're being surrounded, it's all three of them, and they're talking about like their formations and battle stances. It's just the way Riri says the line, and it makes her sound like all three of them are incompetent when it comes to fighting zombies, when that can't be the case, considering they've survived for as long as they have in a zombie apocalypse. You would think that they would, yeah, you can get scared at the fact that there's a horde and that they're really powerful zombies. Like, these ain't Walking Dead zombies. These are like pretty quick moving zombies, but you still have to like sound like you're competent at least when you're fighting them, because then why watch it? Why like go through this whole action sequence like, all right, battle formations, all right, delta angle, this angle, whatever, and you're saying all of these things that make it seem like you're a competent team, but when you start the scene off with having such an incompetent like line delivery, it just pulls you out of the moment, and you're like, why? What was the point of even saying that? Do you know what I'm talking about? Do you know where I'm talking about in the show specifically when I say this? It's right after the Quin. It's right after the Quinjet lands. Sorry, not the Quinjet. It's right after it's right after their ship crashes, and then they start getting surrounded by the dead.
Their ship, their car.
The car. I'm sorry. The car, when their car crashes and they
Yeah.
get
No,
surrounded
I
by
know
the dead,
that
and
scene. Yeah,
they're
I
all
know
fighting to
that
escape. It's
scene.
right before they die. It's right before they die. That's where I'm talking about when I have all this.
I think, okay, I'll bring up another example that for me just was kind of like it was such a stupid joke that I just wasn't, I, I didn't care about it as much in the moment, but it does feed into the whole like Marvel campiness thing. They're being chased by Hawkeye in the city, and
Yeah.
Hawkeye shoots an arrow at them and he bounces it off some things, but Kate catches it. It's really cool. Really, really cool, actually. Then Kate's really excited about a trick arrow. She's like, oh, what does this trick arrow do? Oh, this is so cool. And then she shoots it into a zombie and it turns out to be confetti. Why the hell? Like, why was that necessary? Mainly because, like, why would Hawkeye have shot a confetti cannon at them? Like, oh, he's a zombie, he's not thinking. Okay, cool. Why the fuck does he have that arrow to begin with? It was so Marvel jokey, so unnecessarily Marvel campiness that you can chop it up to like, oh, it's a nothing burger. And you're right, it is a nothing burger. At the same time, though, it's an example of multiple moments that happen throughout this that are just that generic Marvel campiness that bring up another example. I'll bring up an example from Marvel. Fucking Wolverine. Also
Yeah.
rated R, also hard R. All of its jokes, not Marvel campy.
Yeah.
Yes, there are some in there, but not though there are more jokes in there that aren't Marvel campy that are still genuinely funny about, I'll bring up, I think my favorite example of it, the jokes surrounding using Wolverine's body and desecrating his grave and things like that. It's a very
Sure.
dark moment that he makes a lot of jokes about that are just genuinely funny. They're not campy, they're just stupid funny.
Sure.
Those are the types of jokes that you could use in this instance. Maybe not
Right.
obviously exactly about desecrating graves, but still similar enough that you could mix in here without being campy while still
Right.
making light of the really shitty situation that you're in. Because I do think that in a show like this, humor is necessary. And there were some jokes that
Yeah.
chuckle out of me because
Yeah.
if you only give us the most depressing, dark, and decrepit zombie story of all time, like, yeah, it's not going to be you're not going to have a good time. Like, it might be cool, but you're not going to feel great after watching it. And I know that that's not what Disney wants to do, and we're never going to get that out of Disney. But I think
Yeah.
having examples like, I know you bring up The Walking Dead, and obviously it's a good comparison because it's zombies, but I think because we already got a rated R Marvel thing that had jokes that were genuinely funny and hard
Sure.
R that made light of dark situations, why not incorporate some of that humor style instead of relying so much on Marvel campiness? Again, drop a few more F bombs. Don't just say bitch 3 times
Right.
in the last episode.
Well,
Like,
okay,
make
and
it feel like these people are desperate. The only
let's
time I
pull a
ever felt the desperation of the situation was when Kamala just lost her friends and when Red Guardian lost Yelena. Those are the only 2 moments that I felt like the characters actually had desperation in them. And even then, the Kamala scene only works for about 5 minutes.
I don't even think the Kamala scene works. Well, that's one of my next notes, so we could talk about that. Um, actually, let's just talk about that. Um, hold on. Before I talk about that, I have one note, and you know how much I love. I actually do glaze this movie probably more than I should. I just wrote fucking Icarus. when
Yeah.
when Icarus popped up, I was like, oh my god, it's Icarus. That's great.
Yep.
The one thing I'm concerned, I'm confused about is, so was Icarus a zombie or was it still
No.
his okay, so it was just straight up Icarus.
Mhm.
Okay, well then I
Well,
want to see more of that. I want to see
so
him in the future.
it was mentioned by Friday that Icarus, and we know this, Icarus isn't a being necessarily. Like, Icarus
Right,
isn't a
right,
human being, obviously. He's a celestial. So
right,
I don't think he can become infected, but I think he's so caught in battle that he's just
right.
not thinking. Like, he's been in battle for, I guess they've said basically since the start of the zombie apocalypse, which, if I
Sure,
remember correctly, is anywhere between 3 and 5 years ago.
sure.
So yeah.
It's funny and it makes me think. Wait a minute. I totally would want to see more from Icarus. Why don't we go back to that and he just disappears for the rest of the show? I'm like, come on, man. That actually would have been a really interesting concept, and you could have brought Eternals into it. Like the one
Yeah.
property that you are kind of burying now, and then in like little ways bringing them back. Um, but let's talk about this. This is what I wrote about what you were saying. Show at times can be written very poorly, as evidence with Kamala's big emotional scene when Kate and Riri both die. She gave off. Look, I love Revenge of the Sith. I love that film. That Darth Vader, no, is one of the most stupid things ever. And it's just as bad here when she goes, no, Riri, Kate. I'm like, oh my God. That is so bad. It's so poorly written. There's again, it all goes back to the build. There was no build. There was nothing to make me care about this at all. And then they just die. And you're just supposed to accept that, okay, I guess Kate's gonna, or I guess Kamala's gonna get emotional about this for whatever reason. And then it's funny because like 2 seconds later, Moonblade shows up, and you just don't get, like, you don't get anything else with it. And then you kind of just like cut to the next thing. Like she barely gets time to grieve and process this. If anything, she probably doesn't even really. And you
Yeah.
just
Well,
cut to the next thing.
and then you cut to the scene where where she's helping Shang-Chi, who's grieving over the loss of his friends.
Yeah.
Actually, funny enough, has more time to grieve than Kamala does, because you see him sitting on the steps of Kamertage, like hands in his head, both grieving over the situation that they're about to go in, but also the loss of his friends that he just had. And
Right.
that scene right there is like the only other moment where you can kind of feel like Kamala's grief. I guess that, and when she comforts Red Guardian. But like
Sure.
she doesn't. I think one of the reasons why I love Miss Marvel so much is she feels like a genuine kid in her show. Like, she feels like a kid having genuine responses to the
Right.
like the things around her. This is not how a kid would react in this situation. It just isn't. Like,
Well, no, no,
I
I wouldn't say it's necessarily that. A kid could react in this situation. The difference is this is a kid who has for years now lived in this zombie apocalypse, has literally lived in this world. This might be all they know. They wouldn't react in this manner
No, it's not.
considering that they've
She
been here for a
we know
while.
that she was again, this was only 3 to 5 years ago, and she's clearly young adult age, so she
Right.
knew
But
well
you get what I
before,
mean.
but
Right. You
I
get what I mean when I say that.
like, she just lost the only 2 people that she's had in her entire life that, like, have helped her through the past 5 years or whatever, and yeah, I don't know. Let's move on to the next point because we keep coming back to this.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna start skipping around my notes because I have so gosh darn many. Most of it is episode one. Like episode one really was like that first part where I'm like, okay, that's stupid. Let's not talk about Moonblade's entrance. I have my gripes with that, but it's just because of how quick it went through. Like even the Moonblade Kamala stuff could have fit at least half to 75% of its own episode, and you could have built
Yeah.
that relationship. That literally could have, and you could have had more for the grieving process within that episode. You literally could have had that. Let's just cut to the Red Guardian stuff because I'm so pissed about that. We
Really?
talk about
I think that's the one thing we'll disagree on because I do enjoy the Red Guardian.
no, it's not his emotional scene. His emotional scene is really good, and I like that. He
Mhm,
actually was the only character who had an emotional scene where I went, that was acted really well, and I could feel it very well.
mhm.
His jokes and his entire presence in this show is so bizarre and stupid. You would think that he would be more like he can still have jokes, but even Thor in this world, who is like beaten down, broken, doesn't talk to anybody, doesn't move. Alexi's just the exact same. You mean to tell me that the apocalypse happens, the world goes to hell, and he stays the exact same? You would
I
think
think
he
that makes
wouldn't crack as
sense.
many.
I think that makes
Wow.
sense for
What?
his
Just
character. So, here's the thing. He does break. We see him break and lose himself after he loses the people around him. But because I feel like it makes sense that he doesn't break because he has Yelena with him, he has his wife with him, he has the other widows with him. So for him, it's all good. He has what he needs. He's never really given a shit about the outside world other than his family and beating Captain America. That's like the only 2 things he's ever
sure.
cared about. So for his entrance and for most of the show, for him to be that jokey, happy-go-lucky, delusional guy, I think makes total sense because then you do see him lose himself and kind of become, I don't want to call it drunk, but he becomes a zombie because he's so depressed and just wants to sit down and gorge himself with the rest of the people that he's just kind of not wanting to live anymore. I think that that works really well for his character because you see him go from the happy-go-lucky guy because he has everything still. Yes, he's in the zombie apocalypse, but he hasn't lost anyone that he really gives a shit about. He has everyone
Then
around him still.
then let
But
me
then
rephrase it like
after
this.
he loses people, then he breaks.
Let me rephrase it like this then. There are jokes in this that are so stupid, and it's mostly because that's how his character is. Very endearing in Thunderbolts. Very well, no, actually, no. This is a great example. Thunderbolts is extremely dark. It is an extremely dark and grim movie. And granted, that is also only PG-13, and it gets really dark. Red Guardian is probably the funniest character in that film, and he's the most endearing. He has a lot of heart, and he's uplifting in a grieving film. However, the jokes that are in this show aren't like the ones that he has in Thunderbolts. These
I think
jokes,
he was
no.
very
When
similar.
he
I
when
felt
he
he was
looks
very
at the
similar.
camera as bombs are going off outside of the place where he's been living, and he just goes boom, 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 and it's over and over again. Not only is that not funny, I actually found it very annoying after a certain point. Especially, it was also just the shot they chose. It's just dead on his face as he stares at the audience. I'm like, that's so lazy. You should have
Okay,
edited the security camera footage into it as well.
I'll give you that joke. That joke I didn't really care about all that much, but I feel
Most
like
of his jokes are
everything
like that.
else, I disagree. I
Most of his jokes are like that in this show.
I
Not in everything else,
disagree.
but in this show, most of his jokes are like that, where they're just
I
stupid, quippy, corny.
I very much disagree because I think it makes total sense that he hasn't lost anything, so why is he gonna change? He doesn't really, again, he doesn't give a shit about the outside world. He only gives a shit about the widows in his family. Then when he loses them, he loses himself and he becomes way less quippy. He stops cracking jokes because he doesn't have a reason to keep going, and we see that. He basically just stops caring and he gets careless and he dies.
I get that. Even still, that is it doesn't work for me. It doesn't work for me there. They you know where it actually could have worked, and because I haven't made this point yet, and you already know what point I'm going to make because I made it several times at this point, is if everything was drawn out longer and we could see his delusion in the fact that he's still the same person that he was, even though the world's gone to hell. The issue is it's never justified in the beginning. They never justify the reason as to why, and so that reason it doesn't work. I'm pulling from The Walking Dead again. Before Rick and his group finds the settlement that they're basically at the rest of the show, about halfway through it, they get to this town and it's like they're playing dress up. This entire town, they have walls up, the zombies are outside, but they don't have guns. They don't have, like, they have jobs and blacksmiths, and they have a police officer and they obey by the laws that were there before. It's like a normal society life, but they're ignoring what's happening outside. They're ignoring the reality of the world. And that's the whole rest of the season, is that Rick is trying to tell everybody this isn't the world. Thank you, dogs, for barking. Rick is trying to tell this entire town, hey, this is not what life is. These things come in and they kill everybody. There are two people that, while you were playing dress up and in trying to have a normal life, died because you didn't take care of them. And here it should have been the same thing, especially if it was longer. And that should have been Alexi's role. That should have been Moon Knight or Kamala going, the rest of the world isn't like that. I just lost 2 friends to this world. You're in here pretending like life is normal, that you still have a family and that you can, like, do all the normal family things. You can't. That's gone. The world is gone. And that should have been the arc. That should have been what Alexi's whole thing was. Instead, we didn't get any of that. And so we're just kind of thrust into, oh, it's Alexi from Thunderbolts. It's Yelena from Thunderbolts. It's the wife from Black Widow. And it just completely slowed the entire character of Red Guardian down for me in this show. We'll talk about more as we get further into it and why I don't like him even more in certain extents. But we'll get there.
I mean, I very strongly disagree, because I think that I do agree that it could have worked if we drew it out more. At the same time, though, I feel like this is one of those examples of off-screen storytelling that I think works for me, because I think, yeah, you are just supposed to assume that it's the Red Guardian from the Thunderbolts, and yeah, they are living in a delusion of the inside world, and they don't want to help. Like, it's Yelena who convinces them to help out. Maybe it was his wife. I can't remember. They kind of blended together for me, to be honest, and that was one of the problems that I had, where I honestly thought that his wife was Yelena for a second, and then I had to take a moment and be like, no, this is Yelena. But one of them makes the comment about, like, no, let's help. And that really only comes after their world is destroyed. He is
Sure.
living in this delusion of happiness and not caring about the outside world. They have their zombie wall for protection, so why would they need to go on the outside? Like, I haven't seen The Walking Dead, but what you just described to me does sound like an abridged version of exactly what we got. And for me, it worked.
I guess. I don't know. I don't see it at all. And it's more so apparent. And I'm kind of skipping around, but episode 2 was fine. I actually even wrote in my notes, it was like the opening of episode 2 was what I wanted episode 1 to be. And I wish that we would have gotten that in episode 1. Instead, we got in episode 2. It's also just weirdly placed. If this was longer, this whole show was longer, sure, maybe we could justify throwing Shang-Chi and Aquafina somewhere in there. Sure, we could justify them being like the main characters and having that whole opening scene. No, we didn't get that. We've been following Kamala Khan. That's that's also the big problem with here's the thing. If it was longer, we could justify throwing in these different stories and then combining them to be one. The issue is it's 4 friggin' episodes, and now we're bouncing around from, even though this is our main character, we're bouncing around to Shang-Chi, then we're bouncing around to Spider-Man, who doesn't come back into play until episode 4, by the way, so that should have just been a scene they put then. It's just, the whole structure is sometimes out of sync, too, and it's so weird.
The episode 2 start with Shang-Chi, it threw me for a loop, because, like, I had a lot of fun with the first episode, and then I was like, oh, let's turn on episode 2, and then I was like, oh, is this episodic? Is this? And then they finally come together at the end, and or I guess towards the middle or whatever, and I was like, oh, this isn't episode. Okay.
Yeah,
Interesting
but
that they decided to go that direction. And then they do it again with the setup for the Thanos fight. But at that point in time, we already know that this isn't episodic and that it's going to have to tie back into the greater story. So, like, it didn't throw me off as much.
it actually threw the one in episode 3 threw me off more because we didn't get anything from it until episode 4. Like they set it up in episode 3 and then it's just not talked about again until episode 4. If they were going to set
Yeah.
it up and do that, it should have been done in episode 4 when it actually happened. Especially, and I'm only saying again, you can, if it's a longer series, you can start planting seeds and building things over time. The issue is it's 4 episodes and you're
Well,
not showing any signs of, oh, okay, we're going to incorporate this here and this here. You know what I mean?
they placed it there because they needed to set up Thor for New Asgard. That's why it was placed there. Yeah, you don't get the Kamar-Taj or Spider-Man or anything like that, but you do get Thor, and that's the reason that is placed at the beginning of episode 3 is because you need to set up Thor to be broken and explain why when they go to New Asgard he's not going to help them, but he does end up helping.
You actually, this is one of those only times I'm ever going to say this. You can still show that. I would have preferred you showed it in episode 4. And when we actually get to New Asgard in episode 3 and we see Thor sitting there, we see his face mangled. Because they showed it to us first, then they can go into the conversation, especially because Kamala tries walking up to him. He doesn't talk to anybody. And you could have given the example of, or you could have given her the reasoning of, he's lost too many Asgardians. He's lost too many friends. He's not the man he was. You could have given that example, and I would have been fine with it. I didn't need that visual from that one scene until later. It actually would have been a nicer callback for, okay, so we saw his sacrifice, and then we see him in episode 4. That's how he got disfigured. That's how he got scarred. That's the friend that he lost. That's how we got all those things. It would have been a lot more connecting for me in a better way, and it would have flowed a lot better too. Let's talk about the new Asgard scene, because this also leads to the Alexei thing. No, let's talk about this first. Yelena's death, because we both agree. I actually like that. I loved what David Harbour did. I liked his reaction. That was that was the only emotional scene in the entire show that I went, that was acted very well. It was written very well, and I believed every second of it.
There was only
Then
one
we get
other death that I actually really cared about. And here's the thing. I don't expect you to care about it. In fact, I don't expect most people to care about it. For me, it was the only other death that I actually felt like genuine weight behind. And it's so stupid. It was the Death Dealer. When Death
okay.
Dealer died, that
All right.
death. Look. The only reason is just because I don't know. I really liked the dynamic that Death Healer had with Jimmy Woo. I thought it was stupid. Yes.
Stupid.
It was funny. It was cute. So when Death Dealer dies, I was like, oh, that kind of sucks. That's unfortunate.
Talking about the story structure and Red Guardian, I'm going to combine both these here for a second. I love the emotional scene when Yelena died. That being said, the emotional scene they try to have when they're on the beach and he's sitting in the pod grieving. It's not that he's grieving. It's not that he's taking time to process. That's fine. It's the fact that when Yelena dies, she uses her own father's words against him, and he's grieving. And Alexei just doesn't accept it. However, it's literally 30 seconds. I actually went back and timed it. It is a 30-second scene. Alexei goes from grieving and the most down in the dumps to Kamala saying one phrase that she heard Yelena say, which should have had more impact coming from Yelena. And Alexei's all of a sudden like, no, you're absolutely right. And it pisses me off, because if your daughter is the one who's saying it to you, I feel like you can kind of think about it and get over it. Like that should have been in more of an internal monologue moment of he's thinking about it and he's grieving about it. Or it should have just been a moment where he just is a griever the rest of the show. Like that's it. Like he can't accept it and he can't move on. Instead, we have Kamala giving him hope by saying the exact same line. And it doesn't work because apparently Alexei doesn't want to accept it from Yelena, but he'll accept it from Kamala Khan, who in reality, they have known each other for like 2 days. And that's why that scene doesn't work. It's also why when Red Guardian turns to be a zombie later, I hated it. It should have been anybody else. I actually would have preferred it to be Aquafina's character. She sat down to eat and she gets turned into a zombie, and it would have added more of an emotional impact for Shang-Chi's character. Alexei should have gone down fighting. He could have gone down New Asgard, but he should have gone down fighting, or he should have gotten bit. That's what it should have happened. Or no, actually, no. Even me saying that there, I don't feel comfortable doing that. I don't like that either. He should have gone down fighting on the line with Red Hulk, with Infinity Hulk.
Infinity Hulk, yeah.
He would have died honoring Yelena, and it would have been, he wouldn't have gone down in such a stupid manner as, oh, I'm eating, and he's not. It's just stupid. The way they wrote his character in the show was so stupid. He had one good emotional scene, and then when they tried to capitalize on that, they butchered it because I'm going to be done ranting about the show because I'm a broken record. The show should have been longer. Marvel, Kevin Feige, make your animated shows longer. You have too much money to sit there and go, no, this is fine. We can make it 4 episodes. Make your show longer. I'm done. You can keep going if you want. I'm done ranting about this show. I'm so over it. It's actually just making me more angry at the possibilities that the show could have had.
Do you want to talk about the good of the show? Because I do think there was a lot of good at the same time.
We can talk about it, but most of it is just like the visuals, and the visuals go along with the fight scenes.
But I do think that there was like a lot of good in the show as well. I very much disagree with you on the beginning Red Guardian stuff. His death, whatever, take it or leave it. It wasn't like the most emotional death ever. I agree, but honestly, neither was like 99.9% of the deaths. You have Death Dealer and the Death Dealer and which also matter to me, and Yelena. But
I get that.
Like
Red Guardians was set up to be emotional. Like, don't have an emotional scene with him, with Kamala, if you're just gonna pull a stunt like that and do that. You if you're gonna do that, you need to give him the emotional death. Shang-Chi had an emotional death. Kamala Khan had an emotional moment towards the end. Alexei should have had an emotional send-off if that's what they're gonna do. They gave an emotional send-off to Thor, who had 2 lines of dialogue. And even he still had an emotional build, but it was not nearly as good as Alexei's. I'm just saying that. So let's talk about the good. Let's talk about the most important thing in this show, which it succeeds at: fight scenes and animation. My God, it is beautiful.
Yeah.
Every single action set piece is gory, but it's so creative and fun. I can't say it enough. Icarus, man. When Icarus came in here, I was like, that looks really good. And I liked the fight between him and Captain Marvel. I thought it was great.
Yeah. I think that the fight scene, like all the blade stuff, all the moon blade stuff, that, in my opinion, is the best. I think the only scene that I'd put on the same echelon, and that's just because I love Spider-Man so much, is watching Spider-Man rip all those dudes' heads off. I think the only reason why it didn't, I got hyped, but they revealed it in one of the trailers, so I already knew it was coming. It was actually one of their biggest promotional pieces was Spider-Man ripping people's heads off. Don't show us that shit. That's my actually. Going a little side rant here. It's my biggest fear for the Tron Ares movie is that we've already gotten all the coolest scenes from Tron Ares in the trailer.
Oh, sure.
Like, I think the plane scene where he cuts the plane in half or cuts the wings off the plane, dope ass scene. I don't think anything's going to top that scene for me, and we already got it in the trailer. So, not excited for that movie because of that. But anyways, back on Marvel Zombies, I think like the Blade stuff, dope as hell. Watching Kamala slice a bunch of heads off with, I don't know why the fuck she didn't do that earlier. She keeps making these barriers, and then all of a sudden she makes this blade and just chops through the zombies. Really cool. Should have done that earlier.
You could have done that earlier.
But I will say another thing that was really cool, don't care about the emotional beat of it, but was still really cool, was one of the rings holding back the infection. And then Shang-Chi sharing the rings with Aquafina. I thought that was pretty cool. I know a
Yeah.
lot of people have problems with that character, not Shang-Chi, but Aquafina's character. I thought it was still cool to see them kind of tag team sharing the rings. That's kind of a nice little dynamic. Watching the ring, like, I wish they would have used the rings a little cooler than just kind of like a boomerang, but it is still pretty cool to
Sure.
watch those moments. I think that I do wish we got a few more characters in this, in the sense of people we saw as zombies. Like, for instance, I
Sure.
really liked the Captain America zombie because he was legless and that disappointed Alexi. I just thought that was kind of funny. And then he like obliterates him by like slamming him on his back. That was
Sure.
another brutal scene. I like what were some other scenes that I liked? I mean, I really just like I keep thinking back to the Moonblade. That shit was just so
No,
cool.
it's
Mm,
I don't know what's
yeah,
actually like a shot from the comics. Like I don't know if that's Spider-Man like ripping the heads off. I don't know if that's actually from the comics of Marvel Zombies. I don't actually know, but that
I
seems like it was
think it
too cool that
might be.
I would say I think that's like just too cool of a shot for Disney to have come up with themselves. I think that's from the
Like,
comics.
oh, I actually really liked the new Asgard death scenes. I feel like those might have been the most brutal, just
They were brutal.
because a lot of them are very like like not a lot of them, but there are quite a few deaths that are very incineraty. The new Asgard deaths, people are getting limbs chopped off. One person gets like shot. Like, these are real life people, not like zombies. Like, the zombie deaths are brutal, but the deaths that to me are like actually really brutal are when real people don't get turned into zombies right off the bat, but get chopped up. Like, for instance, when Shang-Chi dies, or it wasn't Shang-Chi, no, it was a Death Dealer
Yeah.
and Jimmy Woo. When they die, Jimmy Woo gets his head gets thrown in the air. Like, he gets
Yeah.
ripped to smithereens
Oh yeah.
as a human. And then when he comes back as a zombie, he's a bunch of floating pieces. I thought that
Yeah.
those were really cool scenes. Like, that was a cool way to play with the zombie elements of the show, is giving us
Yes.
moments like that. I wish we
Yes,
got
I agree.
more of those, but at the same time, I feel like what they gave us was really cool. I was expecting more character cameos. Like, no hate, but like, we didn't get a lot of big names here. And I think that's fine. We got a lot of them in the What If episode, but like, Okoye is the one who's leading the zombies, and her second in command is Abomination. Interesting decision to go with there. I don't
Sure.
hate it because ultimately it's Wanda that's the one that matters, but
Right. Right.
I I don't know. The Wanda stuff as well was interesting. I really wish they would have picked a different person though, or just not had a Queen of the Zombies. I don't know. I felt like it was kind of unnecessary, and
I think
maybe
that might be the
Wanda
comics.
specifically, I don't think it is, but I could
Oh,
be
okay.
wrong. I've read the Marvel Zombies before, but it was so many years ago that I need to
Okay.
revisit it.
Okay.
But I feel like it was unnecessary because you give literally the strongest character we have in the current Marvel universe, make her the Queen of the Zombies. A little weird. I don't know. That was kind of like a, oh no, it's scary, but she also has her she also has her sanity, but she doesn't have her sanity. It was like, I don't know. That stuff was weird to me.
Sure.
Um,
Right.
but again, like, I think we can go ahead and wrap our thoughts up here because we
Yeah.
like 45
Yeah.
minutes.
Let's wrap this up.
I
We've said enough about it.
I think that if you want to go in for really dope action sequences, really gory moments, really gory deaths, you will enjoy half of this show. If you like Marvel campiness and you like jokes and you like the I don't want to call them B tier Marvel superheroes, but the not Avengers superheroes, you'll like 100% of this show. If that other
Sure.
part doesn't, if you don't enjoy Marvel campiness and you were expecting more big name superheroes to play a leading role in this, you'll still enjoy half of the show because the deaths are really good.
Right. Right.
But
Right.
I I will say, I had a lot of fun in the moment with the show. I think that if you just want to turn your brain off and watch some really cool action sequences and just have fun with it, you're gonna have fun with it. However, if you want something that is going to make you cry and you're going to care about every single one of the characters and you're going to want something like The Walking Dead or The Last of Us or something like that zombie style, this isn't going to be that. And you're only going to be more disappointed, like Carson is, because you can see the potential of what they set up, but they rush through that. Like, for instance, actually, I'm wrapping up my thoughts here. I'll bring up another instance of this that did feel a little like the Baron Zemo stuff. I think that's like the only big set piece we didn't talk about was they used the prison as a submarine. Really cool, but it ended like immediately.
Yes, it did.
Like they immediately got attacked by Namor, which
Yeah.
really cool, but it ended so quickly in the sense of like,
yes,
oh, we have like it's one of those moments where it does a really good job of giving you hope and being like, oh, they're on a submarine. I know it's going to end badly, but how is it going to end badly? And then it ends badly immediately because they just need to get to the end of it. Like,
yeah,
okay, that's cool. Like, I really liked the idea of them using the submarine and having the underwater nature of it as a way to introduce Namor. Thought that stuff was really cool. I felt like it could have mattered more if you would, like, they didn't even set up the fact that they were going to this place, mind you. There was no setup of we're going to this submarine to get to New Asgard. You get all of that while they're already there. So
right.
that stuff was just a little weird. And it is what I guess could lead to you being a lot more disappointed because it shows you the potential of really cool scenes and then doesn't give you the full depth of what those scenes could be.
Right. Yeah. Had a fun time. Very, very flawed show. And overall, just a disappointing mess.
I
That's
would
it.
definitely not go as far as disappointing mess, but I get where you're coming from.
No, even just talking about it more, I've gotten more and more pissed about it. Like, and even thinking about like the logistics of like how certain things happen. Like, how did Scarlet Witch show up at Asgard? And then why didn't everybody turn into zombies prior? Like, did she give them the food the moment? Like, oh, I know they're here now. They're showing up. Let me give them the food now. Like, no.
It's very plot convenient-y.
It's very plot convenient. I'm just getting more pissed at it. So let's talk about something that I'm not going to be pissed at, except maybe you, because I'm really scared again. Let's talk about this.
Our movie review. I was really excited to talk about this movie. I'm not as excited to talk about this movie after talking about Marvel Zombies. So let's see what we think about this. Carson, I'm going to go ahead and kick it off to you to start off our one battle after another thoughts.
Paul Thomas Anderson is a very unique director. Not all of his films are for everybody. His films are more for those who prefer. Thank you for joining in. thank you, Tex.
Paul Thomas Anderson movies are for your dog, clearly.
Apparently, no. Paul Thomas Anderson films are meant more for those who want a more deeper thinking, thought provoking story, which is fine. But that also runs the risk of they can't always be for everybody. Some people just want to go to the theater and they want to be thrown into a film that they can get lost in, that they can just find themselves in this world. And this film, to a certain extent, does that. I acknowledge that it does that. I'm going to throw this example out. You never saw this movie, but there's a film called Killers of the Flower Moon. It's based off a book. This is also based off of a book. So I'm not like, so that's why I'm kind of using this comparison. One was written by Martin Scorsese, who is another director who likes to tell thought, deep, provoking stories. But his films and something like Killers of the Flower Moon has a through line. It has a complete story. And this film does too, but it doesn't so much rely on the idea of you you have to constantly be thinking about this, if you get what I mean. It does, but it doesn't. It's such a weird thing to say. That being said, I love this movie. I thought it was a slam dunk. This worked really well, and I'm not even that big of a Paul Thomas Anderson fan. I like There Will Be Blood. I thought that was a very good movie. I haven't seen much of Boogie Nights, but I think it's okay. he's not my favorite director, but I certainly really liked what he did here. This film is kind of like Inglorious Bastards, but not as narrative heavy, and it's more so grounded in reality than I even think Inglorious Bastards is. Um, DiCaprio gives one of the best performances I think he genuinely has ever given. It's incredible here. Granted, DiCaprio is my favorite actor. And I think that he knows how to sell raw emotion very well. Um, Benicio del Toro for what he's in is really good. Regina Hall is really good in the movie. I'm just like I'm going down the cast list. It's a slam. Sean Penn. Oh my god, Sean Penn is Lockjaw. Holy crap. Um, that's the one where I'm like that was an incredible performance. Everybody from the cast does a great job. This movie is exceptionally well written. It is so well written, and I don't know how, if it's like he wrote this much, and then DiCaprio did his DiCaprio thing, and he ad libbed or he added this here and this there to make it spicier or make it feel more real. It doesn't matter. It worked well in the performance. I don't necessarily like, and I don't want to talk about this too much. I'm just throwing it in there so that I can like get it over with and say it and rip the Band-Aid off. I don't necessarily agree with the political message behind some of this. And it's not the stances on either side. It's the idea that nobody's a good guy here. And that's kind of the message of what they're saying. The freedom fighters, which is DiCaprio and his whole group, are using violence to get what they want. So they're not good guys. But then you have Sean Penn, who works in the military, who is the most despicably, disgustingly evil guy ever. And he is also not a good guy, even though he is technically fighting for a cause that might be right, but also isn't right. Both sides are wrong. Again, this is like the type of Paul Thomas Anderson stuff that I love because it's thought provoking. It makes you think, is this side genuinely right? Is this side genuinely right? Thankfully, that's only like the first 30 minutes of the movie as it sets up the movie. That's another big compliment. This movie, I like the runtime for this movie. It takes its time. It's a slow burn. It sets everything up really nicely. And then it's not actually, I started because I timed the movie. It wasn't until about an hour into the movie that Sean Penn sends his guys into the house to get Bob or Pat, however you want to call him. And the actual plot of the movie starts where his daughter gets kidnapped and he has to go after Lockjaw to get her back. That's when the actual plot starts. From that point on, the film is pretty good because you have a straight through narrative. It's done with the setup. You've now earned the right to continue going on. And it's just one big emotional, not like, I don't really think this film had a lot of emotional moments per se. I don't think it was trying to go for that much, but for it to be an adventure of just like going to save my daughter, I'm trying to remember these numbers, but I can't because I'm high. It's here's the right word. Here's the right word to use to kind of wrap up my thoughts. This film is stressful and in a good way because it doesn't stop being stressful. It is one high stakes thing after the next, and it doesn't stop going. You feel tense the entire time. And I think that this film just works. I just think it works so well, and it's the type of film we need in 2025. One that's not afraid to take risks, have good writing. I just like this film. I think it's really good. Please don't smile at me like that. All right, go ahead and tell me how much you hate this film. Go ahead.
Oh boy. So let me start off by saying I have seen 0 Paul Thomas Anderson movies. This is my first ever Paul Thomas Anderson movie. I have seen plenty of Leonardo DiCaprio movies, as I feel like that is impossible to avoid Leonardo DiCaprio in any day and age since he started filming with technically his first film wasn't the Titanic, I know, but like going all the way back, like Leonardo DiCaprio has been a mainstay in Hollywood for decades. So I've seen him in plenty of things. And I'm going to start off by saying this is a very beautiful looking movie. I saw this in IMAX. I don't know if Carson saw this in IMAX. I did not. See this in IMAX.
I did not.
From a cinematography perspective, very well shot movie. I think the entire cast does a really good job of acting the characters that they are given. I think that the soundtrack was actually pretty decent. I feel like it helped up the stakes a little bit. It helped with the tension. I didn't love every single moment of the soundtrack because they did kind of repeat a few of the same sound bites a few times. I feel like a little too much. But at the same time, especially the first time that you hear them, I was like, oh, I actually really like the use of this sound bite or this musical choice in this moment to help up the tension. That being said, I think that this movie uses its deceptively fast pacing to distract you from the fact that nothing fucking happens in this movie. If you actually take a step back and look at the plot of this movie, there is zero character development. No one really changes. I walked out of this movie feeling nothing for any of the characters. I predicted every single plot line that was going to happen in this movie hours before it happened. Hours. I predicted Lockjaw's death perfectly. I knew that they were going to, I knew that there was no real stakes. They did nothing to actually give you stakes. You know that the girl is going to survive. You know that Leo is going to get her back. You know that Lockjaw is going to die because they set them up as political archetypes. And knowing the political stance of the people that were involved in this movie, you know exactly what's going to happen because they're just going to follow those political archetypes to a T. They're going to kill the bad racists and they're going to save the good guys in their eyes. Now, one of the reasons why I feel like I'm so upset with this movie, because I felt absolutely nothing for this movie. I think it was great shot. I think it had so much potential. That is why I am mad about this movie. I think that it has an actually really interesting setup. I think the first, I didn't count, but like, I think 45 minutes, we are setting up this stuff with the wife and with the freedom fighters.
30.
I thought all that stuff, 30 to 45 minutes, whatever it was a really good setup. I thought that the concept of this movie of freedom fighters, but also having to balance family with freedom fighters, I thought all that stuff was really, really good. And then you cut 16 years. Okay, cool. Now we get to see them grown up. Obviously, from the trailers, we already knew that we were going to get that. And I was like, okay, you actually had me really locked in from those first 45 minutes. It's very fast. It does a very good job of setting things up. I actually really liked the fact that there was a lot of black and white in this movie, and you don't know, like, you know who the good and bad guys are, but at the same time, there's some nuance in there as well. Like, DiCaprio, the freedom fighter, not necessarily a good guy either. He's a neglectful dad. He's an alcoholic. He's a drug addict. Like, I liked the fact that it didn't make any character out to be this perfect person. At the same time, though, once you get into those last, like, after the 16-year time jump, it just follows, in my opinion, a very, very generic rescue story. It is, okay, let's go save the girl. Let's get in this car and let's go save the girl. The dad, shows no growth throughout the entire movie. Nothing fucking happens. And then you have that end scene where he's chilling on the sofa with his daughter and acting like he changed. I didn't see that. I didn't see him change whatsoever. The daughter might have changed a little bit because now she understands the actual stakes of what's going on and she got to know who her dad was and her mom was. But even then, I didn't really feel anything for that. I called that she was the Lockjaw's daughter literally the second that they slept together. That was no reveal whatsoever. Again, they move so fast to make you not have time to think about it. But if you take a step back and think about it, you can call everything. I knew that Lockjaw was going to die after getting accepted into the Racist Corporation because that's exactly the message that they want you to leave. They want you to leave with. Again, I have no problem with the political message of this movie. I think it is a very good setup for a movie. They just executed on it so poorly because all it is a political message. All it is a political message. There is no character development. There is no character growth. It is just a fast-paced one thing after another. Also, this is a rated R movie where they curse a lot, but like, one example, this really pissed me off. Like, I'm about as pissed at this movie as you're about Marvel Zombies. The scene that pissed me off the most was when, I can't even remember her name, but DiCaprio's daughter shoots the racist guy who's chasing after her. Why did that happen off camera? Like, this is a rated R movie, and you show a big death of a guy that we are supposed to hate. You hear a gunshot, and he dropped, like, why? The only scene that feels like rated R, other than the just excessive amount of language, was the scene where the bounty hunter goes in and saves her, and you see some bloody bodies in the background. Now, I'm not saying that this movie needs to be a gore fest whatsoever, but you bring up Inglourious Bastards and you bring up Reservoir Dogs. Those movies have some pretty brutal moments that really worked. I think the thing that I thought about, the first thing I thought about after walking out this movie, and also while watching this movie, is this movie is what The Long Walk is. This movie wanted to be The Long Walk, and it just did not achieve it, because that movie uses violence to give its political message very, very well. It uses slow moments to make you care about the political message by showing you the problems of the society through the eyes of the characters. You don't see what's wrong with this society other than the most archetypal racist piece of shit you've ever seen in your life. That's the only villain you really ever get, and he is just a one-note, generic, well-acted, racist piece of shit. That's all he is.
That's all you need. Wrap up your thoughts, because we're about to get into this.
I think that the reason why I'm so pissed is, one, I felt nothing walking out of this movie. I did not care for any of the characters at all. And also, I didn't care because I knew what it's not even an expectation versus reality thing, because that's whatever. It's just that I loved the setup of this movie. The first 45 minutes got me really, really hooked. And even when they first switched over and we started to get the moments with Leonardo DiCaprio and his daughter, and I kind of assumed where the rest of that was going to go, I was like, okay, maybe they'll subvert my expectations. Like, I think I know exactly where this movie's going to go, and if they go that direction, I'm not going to like it all that much, but they could subvert my expectations. There is 0 points in time where this movie subverted my expectations whatsoever. So that's my general thoughts. Tear me to shreds, yell at me, hate me, but that is my thoughts on this movie.
I don't hate you. This is exactly the type of a person that a Paul Thomas Anderson first timer would get. I'm not saying that as like a thing. You never know if you're going to be a Paul Thomas Anderson fan until after you watch it. Sometimes you're not even a fan of him. Sometimes you're like me, where you just like this movie versus this one. You don't actually know. Granted, I could have called it for you a long time ago. You were never going to be a Paul Thomas Anderson fan. But that's also because you're not like a big Quentin Tarantino fan either.
I like the Quentin Tarantino movies I've seen, but I've never felt the need to go out and see all of his movies. I'll say, I knew exactly. I was messaging with a friend after I saw this movie. I knew exactly how you would feel about this movie, and I knew you would love this movie for one reason. It had nothing to do with Paul Thomas Anderson. It had nothing to do with Leonardo DiCaprio. It is one reason, and that is you. One of your favorite movies of all time is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and I do not like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and I felt very similar about these movies. Even though I know it's different people involved, and that is a Quentin Tarantino film, I still do. I knew you would enjoy this movie, and I knew we would disagree because we disagree so strongly on our opinions on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
It's not so. What was the last thing you said prior? Because I was going to build off of that. It was. Let's start with this. I don't understand how you can say there's no tension. There is tension throughout this entire film. It is constant. It is always there.
But they never follow through on it. That's my problem. And that's what I mentioned at the beginning. And that's why I think that this is what people don't think about, is the movie builds tension by being fast. The movie builds tension by going one battle after another. I think that's really cool, but there's no depth there. It's just one battle after another with nothing behind those battles. So you feel the tension because you're moving so fast and you don't think you know what's going to happen. But if you actually sit back and think about what's going to happen for 2 seconds, you know what's going to happen. So
or it's just
me,
lucky
the tension wasn't
guesses.
there.
Or it could just be lucky guesses.
You can call it lucky guesses. I shit you not. And I sound like I'm lying. I guessed every single plot line in this entire movie, start to finish. I was not wrong on a single thing in this movie. And that is not a lucky guess. That is the entire movie.
I'm glad you were able to predict the movie. Have you ever heard the term, just because you can guess what's going to happen doesn't mean that it's bad?
Correct. I'm glad you bring that up, because The Long Walk. The Long Walk is a movie that I also predicted the entire end of because it gives it to you on a silver platter right off the beginning. It gives you the two characters that are going to make it to the end, and it gives you the cannon fodder that's going to die.
Mhm.
However, that is a perfect example of a movie where I do care about all the characters because it actually takes a moment to make you care about the characters. It takes a moment, a shorter movie, mind you. It's like not half the length, but it's not even 2 hours. This movie is nearly three, and it actually takes the short amount of time that it has to make you care about all of the characters, even though you know who's going to make it to the end, and it doesn't subvert your expectations whatsoever. But you still care because you're given a moment to care about the characters. Here, I didn't have a single moment to give a shit about any of these characters.
I think you do. That whole 30-minute stretch is a moment where it literally sets up everything and you care about each individual character. They may not overtly tell you like, "Oh my god, we're in love," or this or that. You watch the small interactions that each of these characters have, and it's the nuanced moments. And this is honestly what makes it so fun to be an actor is you get to play these moments. There are intricate little moments throughout the opening that give you that character development, that give you the attachments. That doesn't just overtly go, oh my gosh, we're pregnant and I'm excited because we have a daughter. Oh, and we're fighting for a good cause. It's not overtly like that. A big thing about Sweeney Todd, the emotional, again, I played that character, so I can talk about it in depth.
Yeah.
I know how that character thinks. The biggest part of that character is not the fact that he just goes on a murderous rampage. It's the little moments you take to get to that moment. And if you're paying attention and if you're watching this movie while it throws a lot at you, you see those intricate little moments. Now, granted, I've also had more practice at this than you have. Let's be right about that off the bat. You don't watch Once Upon until the podcast started. You never really watched like the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood movies or the Reservoir Dogs, unless I told you like, hey, you should watch this. This is really good. So you're not as used to finding those moments as I am because I'm more accustomed to seeing that easier because I see it a lot in film. Um,
See, here's the thing though, is I did see all of those moments. Like I feel like me complaining about this will make people think that I don't understand the nuance of this movie and I didn't see those small moments.
sure. Well,
No,
that's how I am
I
right now.
saw every single one of those moments. I know exactly what this wanted you to feel. And again, I think it does a really good job of giving you those moments in those first 45 minutes. After that, though, I think it loses all of that. I think all the nuanced moments that it tries to give you that I did notice, and I was like, oh, I know exactly what they're trying to give me with this moment. It's just not working for me because, and I'm not saying that oh, every single moment needs a moment to breathe, but it's again, I'll go back to my original point, and this is my biggest problem with the movie is it uses its really deceptively fast pacing to continue moving on so that you just don't feel anything. At least I didn't. Because, okay, you get this really cool character moment that, okay, I understand the nuances of what they're going for there. Like the entire scene with the immigration stuff, there was a lot of nuance in those moments of the reality that some people face. And I understood all of the context behind those moments, but it just moved on. And we're just on to the next thing. And again,
Yeah,
that's the whole
that's
plot of the
not.
movie. It's one battle after another. That's not the point of the
Yeah,
movie. But that doesn't mean that I give a shit about it. Like it didn't use the time it had to made me care.
I don't understand how you've come to that conclusion. I respect your opinion if that is your opinion. I don't understand how you get there. I will also say, and this is something that I even my dad, I'm using this example because we watched Once Upon a Time in Hollywood together for the first time, and he really didn't like that movie. He is a Quentin Tarantino fan enough. He loves Reservoir Dogs. He loves Pulp Fiction, two of his favorite films. My dad and I, when we walked out of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I really enjoyed it. Granted, that was also because that was my type of movie too. It's just a big love letter to old Hollywood, and I think it's really cool to see that. Is there a fly flying across my camera? I
Yes.
just saw. I okay, that's fantastic. Um, he walked out of that not really liking Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. He has rewatched that movie more than any movie he has ever rewatched, and it has now become one of his favorite films that he's ever seen. Why? It's because the rewatchability of it, as you rewatch it, you notice more and more things, you get more in depth, and it's more so about being swept into the writing, how each character acts, how the dialogue is written, just the actions of the characters, the way they're performed, the cinematography. You already mentioned that one of the cinematography is beautiful. There are visually creative shots that I'm surprised that we're just now getting in 2025 that have like not been done yet. Like the whole scene with the car chase at the end when they're like literally going over the hills and you can see going over the hills you can't see, going over the hills you can't see. That
Yeah.
as far as any film that I've ever seen, that has not been done. There's been car chases where you from the other angle, but you've never been like on the car going in and out. Like
Well,
I've never seen that done in any film ever.
that's the scene that I was actually thinking of when I said, "Oh, this movie has really good cinematography." That scene was really, really good. I really enjoyed the cinematography of that and a lot of other scenes in this movie. I think it is. I think it is a well put together movie from a, I guess, movie making perspective, minus the story for me.
And I just think that I think that's incorrect. I don't agree with that.
So, okay,
Granted, the
actually,
story,
let's do this. Let's do this. Let's stop.
okay,
Walk me through, as someone who you know my thoughts on the movie. You know what I have said about the movie.
yep,
Walk me through why I am wrong. Give me examples, and let's see if I can dissect them. If I can't give you a reason why that is a bad moment, I'll concede. I'm very curious to see because I think that I can disassemble most things in this movie because I genuinely don't understand how someone could care about anything that happens.
okay. Let's talk about a moment with tension. Let's start with that one because that's the biggest part of this whole movie is the tense and the stressfulness that you feel. The very first scene, or it's not the first one. It's a few scenes in with Lockjaw and the mom. I always get her name wrong. How do you say her name?
Oh, dude, I don't remember shit. I remember Lockjaw. That's it.
Well, that's also a problem if you don't remember that.
You also
Perfida?
don't remember it. So here's the thing. Here's the thing. This is
I still remember Lockjaw.
you say that you care. I also remember Lockjaw. You say you care about the
You
characters.
just said you didn't.
Names.
You
You can't
just said
remember
you
their
didn't.
names. No, I
I'm
did. I
trying.
literally just said run it back. I said I remembered Lockjaw, and that's it.
Okay, the
How
wife
are
is
you
also
supposed to
only
care
in the
about a
movie for
character if
30
you can't
minutes.
remember their names? That's
Okay,
my problem. They're so forgettable because they're so archetypal.
okay. You also can't remember the names of the characters in Long Walk sometimes too. So don't come at me with the you can't remember their names. You also sometimes can't remember the names of the people in the Long Walk. You can remember what they look like and you can remember their archetype, but that's also true. So let's go into this scene of tension when Lockjaw tells the wife, the revolutionary leader, whatever you want to call her, meet me here. I want my gun back. I want this. That whole scene in the entire room is filled with tension. At the moment she gets the invitation, all the way to when she walks in. This comes down to the style of the way the actors decide to portray it. Sean Penn doesn't move an entire muscle, and it's all the wife the entire scene. And it's the camera shots, the choices. You feel tense because you don't know what's going to happen. Is she going to kill him? Is he going to kill her? You don't actually know. You can't come up to anything. And then obviously it goes into, I don't want to say the word, but they go into a whole love making
There's a
session.
rape scene. Yeah.
It
Well,
is a
it's rape,
big,
what it
it's
is.
it's a big rape scene. I hate that word. I don't want to say it ever. I hate it.
It's the unfortunate reality of of what this movie is trying to sell you on, and in those moments is when they're trying to set up the tension of. And here's the thing: you bring up this example, I'll give you it. It's a good example. But I did already say that I really liked the setup of this movie, and I think that those moments, like with Lockjaw, like for instance, I think one of my favorite scenes is probably one of the most uncomfortable scenes in the entire movie, and that was it was like what the second shot in the entire movie of when she is purposefully trying to dehumanize Lockjaw's character by making him get a boner in the moment. Like it's a terrible scene to watch. It is the most uncomfortable scene I've probably ever had to watch on the screen of a movie theater. I think that scene is amazing though for the message that it's trying to leave you with because it's trying to dehumanize someone who, mind you, you know nothing about at this point other than he's some revolutionary who's probably a bad guy that you're probably supposed to hate. but it does a good job of dehumanizing him while also setting up that their dynamic, which their dynamic is one of my favorite parts of the movie for those first 35, 40 minutes or whatever it is. So all of that stuff works really, really well for me. And I do really like that. I don't like rape, let's get that right, but I like the rape scene for what it represents. But again, I've already
Okay.
said I liked the first 30 minutes of this movie.
So you're dismissing my example. Would you like me to try to find another one?
I mean, I'm not dismissing you. I'm agreeing with you. Don't
Okay.
take this as dismissing you. I'm agreeing with you. However, my point is that the first 30 minutes of this movie are very, very good, and the rest of it isn't.
Let
Bring
me
up an
pull
example from what I've already agreed is good.
let me pull this example. And I also want to explain this to you as well. DiCaprio doesn't have an arc, you're right. Benicio del Toro doesn't have an arc. You're right. To a certain extent, Sean Penn. No, actually, wait. I was about to say he doesn't have an arc at all. Sean Penn does not have an arc the entire film.
No,
I don't know why.
Sean Penn has zero arc, and he's the only character that I'm actually I like the fact that he doesn't have an arc, and he is decrepit till the end.
I love the fact
that.
I love the fact
that
I love the fact that the other characters also don't have arcs either, and I'll explain why. There is one character in this film who does have an arc. Do you know which character I'm going to say?
it's the daughter. You're gonna say the daughter, and I'm gonna
It's the
disagree.
daughter.
But
Why are you disagreeing with me? Where do you not see the arc there?
Okay, bring up examples. Bring up
In
examples.
the beginning of the movie, she's not scared of the danger. She thinks her dad's a horrible father, and she believes that everything that he's doing is just a big basket case. Like nothing's going to happen, nothing's bad, nothing's ever going to happen. I'm not taking this. I just want to go with my friends to this thing. By the end of the film, she understands the consequences of those words. She understands why her father is, super protective because of stuff like this that happens. The arc is that she understands that her father was trying to protect her the entire time, and I'm bringing this up as a why we don't need other arcs. There's a film out there, and I also know this one because I played this role too. There's a movie that came out in the 60s. That little movie is called Mary Poppins. If you look at that, no, hold on.
That is an interesting example, but okay.
It's not. Who has the character arc in Mary Poppins? There's only one character. Nobody else changes. There is one character who has an arc.
Dude, I haven't seen Mary Poppins in so long.
It's the dad. It's Mr. Banks. Mary Poppins is brought in as a nanny for the children because he thinks the children needs the change. It's him. And he's the only one who changes at the end. He's the only one who has an arc. The other characters in the story are used as devices to push that arc along. And the reason that arc is so significant is because DiCaprio, if DiCaprio has any arc, it's that he is genuinely trying to get his daughter back. He went from, he still is a stoner and he still is drunk and he's made a lot of mistakes, but he's trying to save the one thing that he has left, which is his daughter, even though it's not really his daughter. That's also the beauty of the fact that when it is revealed that she is I can't speak. When she is Sean Penn's daughter, DiCaprio isn't the real father, but he doesn't care. Because it's the last remnant, the last memory that he has of the woman that he did once love.
But he doesn't know that. He doesn't know that. He doesn't find that out
by the end.
He doesn't find that out until well after he saves her, though. So it has nothing to do with his arc of saving her.
But he knows it by the end. And does he look like he gives up on her at the end? No. Not at
but
all.
What do you mean he knows at the end? He knows when she reads the letter, I'd assume, is when he finds out. He doesn't find out when he's saving her. And okay, cool. He doesn't care at the end. At that point, he already went through so much shit to save her anyway that why would he care? Of course he's not. If he would have found out, here's the thing. If he would have found out earlier at any point in time in this journey, I'd actually agree with you on that. And I think, oh, that's a really beautiful thing. He thought that this was his daughter the entire time. So that's not a story of a man who's going to save someone that is or isn't his daughter.
Again, it's not his arc. It's not his movie. He's not trying to change. That's the other thing. I'm saying if he had any, that might be it. But that's not the point of the film. That never was the point of the film. Nobody in this film has an arc except for her. That arc is completed. The job is done. That's the character you're technically following. It's all like, yes, you're following DiCaprio's character, but when you actually look at this movie and you break it down, technically the daughter is the focal point. is really the main character of the story, especially when you break it down for how it goes around. DiCaprio's the big actor in the movie. Del Toro is the big actor in the movie. That's why in the trailers they were the ones being produced. But she was the main character. A good example of that is Sinners. You believe Michael B. Jordan as Stack and Smoke are the main characters, and yeah, they are. But really, it's Sammy's story. That's who you're following.
I mean, yeah, that is true, but I think that's very clear throughout the entire. I thought that was clear from the beginning that you were going to be following Sammy.
I
Like,
think it's
yeah,
clear
Michael.
here. If you look at the way it's all set up and you look at the way the plot presents itself, it's very clear from the beginning that she is the main character. That's why she has the whole scene with her dad. That's why there is the argument with like, being first off, this movie is also very funny at times. Holy crap, we never touched on
I'll,
that.
I'll give you that. I did laugh at multiple times in this movie. I'll
There,
give you
there,
that.
well, and
It was some
even
funny.
in the plot, it's really funny. I like how Del Toro's like, go down the fire escape, go, 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 go. And DiCaprio immediately gets captured and tased, and it takes no time. He just immediately gets caught. And I'm like, that's great. That's clever. That's funny. It's moments like that that make up this film. And when you realize that that's the whole point of the film, like it's not about the arcs of everybody else. It's not about this. It's about this one piece. And you see how the dots connect through each character in each storyline. That's when it's really good. Again, there are moments that elevate the plot, and then there are moments that elevate the characters. And that's the only character that matters here. That's the center focus. That's why she's the one to overcome the big evil racist guy at the end of the film and not DiCaprio. I think that's actually a brilliant choice too. I like that because it kind of it shows how it shows the ending of her arc in a more symbolic way. I guess that's the best way to explain it. I'm explaining that very horribly, but you I think you get what I'm trying to say.
I get what you're saying, and I don't disagree in the sense of like, oh, she's the one who overcomes the evil at the end, and it's not DiCaprio. Like, I understand why that works and why that's the way it is, and I don't hate that. Now, back to the daughter's arc. I think the reason why it doesn't work for me in the sense of like I understand that the entire point of this is her real or one of the big points of this is her realizing the dangers of this world and her being put in positions of danger that she's never been placed before, finding out about the history of her family and all of this. But for me, I just never felt like any of the danger that they put her in was real danger because
That's
nothing
absurd. Okay, that's a bold statement. That is
because here's the
actually
thing.
absurd.
The only scene that actually worked for me in terms of showing the real danger was after she gets captured by Lockjaw and she has the moment with the bounty hunter. And the bounty hunter goes in and slaughters a bunch of people, and all those people die. That was a really good scene, in my opinion. It shows the humanity of the bounty hunter, it shows her the consequences of actions. That's the only scene that's like that. Every other time, I never felt like anyone was in real danger.
When she's
I
in the room
never
with Lockjaw, I thought she was in again, any scene that Sean
Nope.
Penn. Here's the
She
thing,
was
Sean
fine.
Penn might win an Oscar for this performance. It is that good. Sean
And I
Penn
don't think
is
sh I don't disagree with you. I think Sean Penn does a good job of acting it. I didn't feel any danger, though. I knew that she was his daughter, and I knew he wasn't gonna do anything about it. He was too much of a wuss. He
I
he
I
didn't have the bones in him to do it, so I never believed she was in real danger. Also, nothing happens to the people around her in that moment. Oh, whoop-de-doo, they get arrested. Okay, cool. I don't care. There was no danger. Like, I'm not saying that people needed to be having their heads blown off in this movie, but for how I was sold on this movie and the concept that I had it, you can say expectation versus reality, and I shouldn't have set myself up for this. But no, the movie to me feels like this is what it was setting you up for, and I just didn't get that. Like, the only
no,
time
this
that
is
there was any
exactly what I
real
thought the movie was going to be.
actual hardcore consequence was the scene with the bounty hunter, and I did enjoy that scene because that moment, you feel the real world consequences of her actions. All the other scenes, particularly the one with her dad, I knew that she was going to be his daughter, and he wasn't gonna kill her in that moment, so why does it matter? It
Because
just wasn't written well, in my opinion.
he wasn't going to kill her, man. That's not the point of what he was going to do. You know that, right?
Cool. but what they were trying to do still didn't sell me on it.
I think that is bizarre. I don't have much more to say on this. I have given you every evidence that I can come up with. I've given you the thing that I say. I think it's bizarre that you don't see this, and you're in the minority. You are in the
I'm totally
minority when you
fine
say
with
that,
that.
which is funny.
I am totally fine with that. Actually, I'm not though. It's funny. I watched a single review on this, and I forget his name. I watch him quite often, so I feel bad that I forgot his name. But
Is it our
I
Lord and Savior Coy Jandro?
no, it's not Koi. I haven't watched Koi's yet. It's Jeremy Johns. Jeremy Johns. I don't know if you've
Yeah,
seen Jeremy Johns before. He
I watched his review for this.
Yeah, I love his point at the beginning that this movie is a use for the algorithm to test your political opinions. I fully agree with that.
Oh
And
yeah. Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Are you
I
kidding me?
think I think that makes it very difficult for people to call out the fact that this is a flawed movie. I think that I don't want to say people are scared to have a problem with this movie, but I genuinely think that the elements that people enjoyed about this movie are elements that people are going to feel forced to enjoy. Because if you peel back the political narrative that they have that is well executed, but kind of one note, it's a nothing burger.
I don't think that's true at all. I'm somebody who doesn't see this as like I'm not scared to like this movie. I like this movie. I told you at the beginning. The
No,
only thing
of
I
course, I'm
don't
not saying you're scared to like this movie. You're scared to not like the movie. Everyone likes this movie, Carson. You just brought it up. I am one of maybe 5 people that are outspoken about not enjoying this movie as much. It is the popular opinion to like this movie. And I'm not
I
scared to dislike it, but a
okay.
lot of people are going to be.
I told you my biggest complaint, and it falls exactly in line with Jeremy Johns. This is the example I'm coming to. I said at the beginning, I didn't want to get into it because it really wasn't that big of a deal, and I don't really want to bring it on the podcast. It was the political side of this. The idea that it's showing that these people are using violence to get what they want as part of the freedom fighters. So they're not right, but the film also doesn't justify saying that they're wrong either. But we know this guy's wrong because he's an evil, despicable, disgusting, rapey bastard. And so the movie, even though it doesn't justify what they're doing, it also isn't saying that what they're doing is wrong, but they are using violence to get what they want. And that's the message they're trying to convey. That, like, I'm not scared to admit that. That is the one flaw in the story. And you know what that actually is a part of? That's a part of the setup. It has nothing to do with the rest of the film. That actually has to do with the setup of the film. And so I don't disagree with that, but I'm also not one of the people who's scared about the flaw of this movie. I think that is the only flaw in this movie. Look, it may not be my favorite story that they've ever told, but it's not a bad one either. Sure, they could have told a story about the freedom fighters. Sure, they could have done this. Sure, they could have done that. That's not the story. That's not what the story's about. If it was, they would have told that story, and they would have started a lot earlier than where they did. We would have followed DiCaprio's character as he's brought into this freedom fighter group. But that's not the story they're setting up. It's the story of a daughter understanding the evils of this world, understanding how really both sides of the fences are bad.
She did not take that message away. She did not take that message away. That was not her understanding at the end of the movie, and I will fight you on that. She
No, I know.
immediately jumps into being a freedom fighter. She
Oh no,
immediately
absolutely.
takes the side of the fence. And I don't have
Oh,
a
absolutely.
problem with that. I'm not saying that she needs to be a fence sitter, but no, this movie, again, I've said it before and I'll say it again. This movie distracts itself with its political message. It is so wanting to give its political message right out the front that it loses itself in storytelling because all the characters are exactly the archetypes of the type of characters that these writers want to have. And I'm not saying I disagree with the message behind the story. I'm not anti-racism, good. Freedom, good. They used it in such a generic way that there's no nuance within that. And
Again,
again,
it's not the
though
point of the film. It's
you
not, and
just said
you're now.
you said earlier that the whole point and how you're supposed to get this story is through the nuance of the characters, and then you just said that the characters aren't. What do you mean?
You're talking about the political side of it. You're not talking about the nuances.
I'm
You're
talking
not
about the
talking
nuance of
about
the
that.
story in the characters and how the characters are archetypal and not nuanced.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's
I thought you were talking about the political side of it. No, no, no. No, you're right. Keep going. I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about the political side of it. I was like, what are
okay.
you talking about? The political side isn't the point.
I was about to lose my mind,
No, no,
dude.
no, no, no.
Because
The way
they
you
just made
phrased it,
characters.
the way you phrased it, I was very confused. Sorry. Now that you've explained that, please continue.
I think that the political nature of the story is cool, but it is so archetypal in the way that it is done that I've mentioned it before on the podcast. And I genuinely think the only example of a movie that has a very clear political message that is done very well is The Long Walk. And I think that's another reason why I don't like this movie, is because this movie just doesn't do what it seeks to do the same thing The Long Walk does. It actually seeks to leave you with a very similar message behind The Long Walk, just does not execute on it properly because it has none of the nuance of The Long Walk. It has all the characteristics of the stereotypical archetypal characters that one side of the political spectrum wants to spew at you. And I'm not saying I disagree with that side of the political spectrum. I'm just saying that they lose themselves in the fact that they want to shove this down your throat without giving you any substance. This is not how
Again,
you sell people on your message.
I don't know. Now that you're bringing up a long walk, I don't know if I agree with you on that. Granted, I love the long walk. I do think it's very, very good. I I think everything that this movie does, the long walk does the opposite of. Not saying it's bad. I think both are expertly handled in both ways, in both regards. But like where the long walk is subtle about its political theme, it's not really like it gives it away a lot more with like, stereotypical archetypes for characters and whatnot.
I very much disagree. I
The
think
villain is
all
not
of
as
the characters
strong as
I think
Lockjaw.
all the characters except for the main villain. I think that this movie is the polar opposite of The Long Walk. I think the Long Walk strong suits are in its ensemble cast of characters, the nuance within those characters and the way that they present the political message in that nuance. I think One Battle After Another is super in your face about its political message, has a decently strong villain who's actually way more involved than the villain of The Long Walk. But because of that, you lose all the nuance of the characters that you're presented with its ensemble.
That's actually not where I agreed with everything you said except the nuances of the characters. Like honestly, that's where I'm at. I think that there are only really nuances in a few of the characters in the long walk. I do feel like there are nuances with every character in this film, but there's only nuances with a few of the characters. I will also say the difference between the long walk and this film is that each character does in their own way have an arc. It's not like it's just the daughter.
In which movie?
Every character has
In which movie?
long walk. Every character
Okay.
has an arc. But that is also again another difference between the two. I'm not hating on either. I'm saying where the long walk fails, one battle after another succeed. Where long walk succeeds, uh, uh, another
One
battle
battle
after
after
another,
another.
one battle after another fails. It's like yin and yang, and I don't think either is actually bad at all. I think both is fine, but I I'll say this: I do like Long Walk more, but it's not by much. I think that this film, more so than Long Walk, is handled with impeccable writing and acting that is going to rival The Long Walk, especially come Oscar season. Holy crap. You're gonna have a that it's gonna be
I'm gonna
brutal
be
between these two
pissed.
films.
I'm gonna be pissed because here's the thing. You're so right. This movie is going to win the Oscars over Long Walk, and it's going to piss me off. That's why I hate the award shows, because The Long Walk is still the best acted movie, one of the best acted movies I've ever seen in the world. And while I will say, I don't think anyone gives a bad performance in this film, I don't think any of them carry a candle to the performances in The Long Walk.
And I don't see that. I mean, even the way Sean Penn as the villain, he walks a different way. He talks a different way. He is a completely different person than any other character that he has ever played. And it's very, very dark and grim to see his character become the person that he is, especially because he is just an evil, despicable person.
But he doesn't
He is
become anything. He stays the same the entire time, which is something you already agreed with, that he stays the same the
okay.
entire course of the movie.
I chose the wrong word. I didn't mean to say become the person he is. I just chose the wrong word. I apologize. I don't like. I'm gonna wrap up my thoughts here because I'm tired of talking about stuff today. I don't know why. I don't see where you're coming from. I think that you're. Yeah, I definitely think you're in the minority for this. And whereas I do agree with somebody like what Jeremy John said in regards to like, hey, I feel like people are too scared to see this. I don't agree with that. I'm fully willing to admit this film's flaws, and I think that the flaws, if anything, it's just it's the fact that they don't really clarify who's right and who's wrong in the political situation, and they don't justify that. Even though like if both sides are bad, they don't justify that. They just try to say, even though they're both bad, this is specifically worse because this guy's evil. What about the like the rest of it? That's my only complaint. Is this
See,
just the justification of the setup? That's it.
I very much agree with you on that complaint, but I think that that complaint carries through and infects the rest of the movie in the sense of, since they don't tell you which characters are definitively good or definitively bad, which I don't like when movies do that, but because of the way that this movie chooses to go about that, it makes all of its characters so archetypal. It makes them so generically evil or generic. Like, I don't want to say generically good because I don't think anyone in this movie is generically good, but I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, but here's the thing, and you're gonna be pissed off when I say this. I can say the exact same thing about The Long Walk, with the exception of the two leads. All of those guys, yeah, they have development. They're all archetypal. They all are. You have the guy who wants to write a book. And granted, that's all Stephen King archetypes. We have the nerdy guy, we have the fat guy, we have the slow guy, we have the young boy, we have this, we have that. All of those things you can find in the Stephen King novel, and they're all archetypes. Granted, handled with care, but they're also handled with care here. So if they are archetypes here, you also got to remember The Long Walk also had them too. I'm just saying.
And even if that is the case, which I don't entirely disagree with you on, I still think that they're so much better written and they have so much more nuance within that. And they make you care about them so much more. Not because you care about the characters themselves, but about the way that the other characters react and interact with those characters. That I just don't care about the way that these characters interact with each other. I just don't.
I guess one other thing I will say that that is a negative, and the more I think about it, is sometimes the tone of this movie does clash with the goofiness of DiCaprio, which isn't like, it's not overtly bad, and I didn't actually see it like a ton of times, but every now and again I was kind of pulled out of it where I was like, why is that like that? Why do we do that? Why do we make that choice? Again, it's a rarity that it happens, but it did happen once every now and again where I was like, that tonally just didn't work in that moment. Granted, I also feel like that's every film nowadays.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I don't know. I feel like I haven't made my point very good because here's the thing. I've forgotten most of what happens in this movie because I didn't care about enough of it to remember it. So
Brother.
if I just there were some scenes that I enjoyed. I feel like the setup was really, really good. And then after that, it just like here's the thing. The nuances in the first 30 minutes, it's exactly what I wish they would have carried over in the sense of, okay, the mom, they're not trying to make her a good person. They admit that she's not a good person because they set her up as, oh, she's a good person. She's a freedom fighter. But then she abandons her family and she rats out on all of her friends to get away and be on her own. And then she runs away from having any accountability for anything that she does. I think that that nuance of the mom character is really well done. I think that having the nuances of Lockjaw in the sense of, oh, he has a thing for black women, but at the same time, he needs to be evil because he wants to be accepted by the people that he looks up to, with the Christmas themed bad guys, which to me tonally just felt so unnecessarily goofy. It was so unnecessary. Call them the KKK. Put your money where your mouth is. Call them the fucking KKK. Don't call them the Santa Claus dick suckers or whatever the fuck you called them. You wanna say a political message, call them what the fuck they are. Don't try and out yourself in try to add some goofy nature of singing Christmas tales or praising Saint Nicholas or whatever the fuck you did. Like, put some balls behind what you're saying. And that just, it was another example of it just didn't work, because the nuance that you could have had of mirroring reality and these organizations that everyone thinks are secretly running society and to some degree are running society, but then making them so unnecessarily goofy that it loses all seriousness in the message that it's trying to give you to take away. And then, yes, Lockjaw was one note, and I get that he's archetypal, and that works in the sense of, okay, he doesn't change, he's evil, and some people don't change their ways, and I didn't want Lockjaw to change his ways because it would have gone against the entire thing that they have set up for the character. But then you have the daughter, who's only really put in danger twice. She's going to get arrested by the police, and then she gets confronted by Lockjaw and taken away by the bounty hunter. The only consequences that she sees to the actions is when the bounty hunter steps in to save her. Other than that, I felt no fear of anything happening to her at any point in the movie, because you know Lockjaw's not going to kill her. In fact, he sends her off because he is not man enough to kill her himself, which just removes the tension from the situation. I'll end my thoughts there. I'll end my thoughts there.
I'm gonna be completely honest. This is the first time I've ever actively zoned out on the podcast. I was looking at like other, like what critics were saying and Metacritic and Letterboxd, like
I
all the
know
reviews
I'm
and everything.
wrong in the guise of the reviewer overlords that suck Hollywood's dick to death.
Well, no, because
I
I'm
know I'm wrong.
well, it's also the audiences too. Like I'm trying to see, and Letterboxd usually is the audience. It's not all the critics, it's everybody. But like I was trying to see, like, am I the one who's wrong here? Am I the one who's
No,
just like
you're right.
seeing stuff?
You are right. Everyone else likes this movie. I'm the only one who doesn't like this movie. I don't give a fuck. I
It's
think that
okay though.
people are distracted and too afraid to talk about the problems that this movie has. They're distracted by the fast pacing, they're distracted by the political message, and they're afraid to say that this movie has a great political message behind it that is distracting you from the fact that it is not a good movie.
It's okay, buddy. It's all right. Let it out. It's just a movie. It can't hurt you anymore. You don't have to watch it again.
And I never will. Part
You
of
don't
me,
have to watch it again. You
I
never
will
have to
say,
hear from it.
I got about 75% of this movie again and went, you know what? I'm going to rewatch this movie because maybe I'm missing something. And then this movie ended. I felt absolutely fuck all for anything that happened in this movie and went, I never want to watch that again.
If it makes you feel better, I also don't feel like I'm never gonna watch this again. But I'm also never probably gonna watch The Long Walk again either. for the same reason. It's just like there's so many other things I'd rather watch. I'm like,
I
it's
would
good.
watch The Long Walk again. The only reason I wouldn't is because of how emotionally destroyed I am, because I actually felt something for what happened in the movie. Again, I felt something for characters I knew exactly what was going to happen to. I felt nothing for these characters that I also knew everything that was going to happen to, because they did not subvert my expectations whatsoever in any way of tension. The dad maybe should have died. Maybe you had some tension there. I don't know. I'm not saying that needed to be, but no one really gets any consequences for any action except for those pieces of shit that the bounty hunter kills and the nuns that got arrested.
There it is. Got it. Sorry, I was pulling something back up.
Let's just end this segment. I've gotten my anger out. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't think I'm gonna clip this episode. I think this episode is gonna go unclipped. I didn't clip last week's episode because I was busy, but I think this episode is gonna go unclipped because
Oh no,
if
you
you want
could
to hear my thoughts, watch this whole goddamn podcast. Hear my thoughts. I am not going to let people misconstrue what I say about this movie by doing a shitty job of clipping it, because I think that I have made my point very clear, and you can disagree with it all you want. You can say I'm in the minority. Fuck yeah, I'm in the minority, and I don't care.
I think you could still clip the
Minorities are
Marvel
supposed to be a good
Zombies.
thing.
You can still clip Marvel Zombies, buddy. You can still clip that.
We'll see. I don't have time today. That's the problem. I don't have time. I have so much
Just
other shit I need to do.
put a pretty bow on it. Wrap it up. Send it home.
Yeah, I don't. Okay, let's move on. I don't have anything else to say. Next week, we're going to be talking about 2 episodes of God. Why couldn't we have talked about Peacemaker this week? because Peacemaker has the same. There's a spoiler for Peacemaker. Peacemaker has the same message of racism and does it so much better than this movie ever even could dream of doing. But yeah, we'll talk about 2 episodes of Peacemaker next week, and we're gonna talk about The Smashing Machine, the new Dwayne The Rock Johnson movie, which
Woohoo!
I'm curious. I will say that. I am intrigued to see where this movie goes. I am not the biggest Rock fan. I will be totally honest with you. I think he is probably the worst wrestler turned actor. We have, especially when you have John Cena and Dave Bautista out here. But I'm still going to watch the movie and I'm going to give my thoughts. I'm going to try and go in unbiased. But yeah, next week will be 2 episodes of Peacemaker. Technically not the end of Peacemaker. There will still be 1 more episode of Peacemaker the week after. And then we will also be talking about The Smashing Machine as well. Anything you want to say to close us off?
No. I think I'm done talking for
Fair enough.
the next week.
To the 0 people who stuck around to the end because you all got pissed off about my rant about this movie and Carson's. Because here's the funny thing, Carson. I didn't bring this up throughout your argument because I didn't want to be that person. But since you brought it up in my argument, you're the only person who doesn't like Marvel Zombies.
No, that's true.
All the critics are way higher on Marvel Zombies than you are. So,
oh no, that's
welcome
valid.
to being in the minority. We're both in the minority on something here.
Yay!
I'm definitely I point out all the problems that Marvel Zombies has. At the end of the day, I still had a much more fun time watching Marvel Zombies than I had watching this movie. So we're both in the minority on something. So if that makes you feel any better, people are not going to listen to this episode anyway. But even if they did, they're going to hate us. This is a terrible episode for people to watch in terms of liking us whatsoever. But
there's something about everybody just like, oh god, that's so stupid.
If you did, for whatever fucking reason, get to this point in the episode, thank you for watching and listening. Tell us how wrong we are in the comments. Drop a like and follow. If you are at all interested for whatever reason to listen to other episodes of this podcast, you can find us on all podcast hosting platforms at Nerdy Nimrods. We're also on all social media platforms where we post 3-minute reviews. Carson's going to talk about his wrestling experience more in depth. I review a bajillion and a half anime. We're about to get into the next anime season, so we're about to swap over to different shows. I'm currently going through the process of catching up on a few shows. That's why I'm so busy today, because I have to catch up on a few things to give my final thoughts for the closeout of the season and film some stuff to set up for next season, since a few shows have already started dropping. So if you're at all curious in any of that, listen there. But with all that being said, as always, stay nerdy.